Our story begins with a man who, while watching a hunt, casually mentioned he wanted to be a hunter himself, only to wake up and find his wish granted in the strangest way. He realized he had actually turned into a dog, and a large breed, perfectly suited for hunting at that. To be honest, it was quite the transformation. He expected to show off his skills by taking down some wild boars, but his owner cruelly claimed he was just a failed crossbreeding experiment. The man even intended to sell him off for meat, but as the deal was being made, our protagonist saw his chance and bolted. He dove headfirst into a nearby cornfield, where he immediately spotted a group of boars wreaking havoc on the crops. Fortunately, the larger ones were tuskless sows, and feeling a bit hungry for a taste of meat, he decided to test his luck. A moment later, he charged toward the herd, but the large sows didn't seem intimidated by his approach at all. They simply raised their heads and stared him down. It seemed they didn't take him seriously whatsoever, which was a bit insulting, really. He barked fiercely at them, hoping to stir up some panic, but instead, one of the massive sows suddenly charged right at him. Getting hit by a creature that size would certainly hurt, so he did the only sensible thing. He turned and ran. He thought he had lost her, but a quick glance back revealed she was practically nipping at his heels. Yes, she was surprisingly fast. He made a sharp turn along the edge of the field and accelerated in a straight line to finally put some distance between them. The sow gave up after about 100 meters, but our hero wasn't ready to quit. He was determined to have his meat today. He circled back toward the herd, and when she charged again, he decided to play it a bit smarter this time around. He led her on a chase, weaving through turns until they reached the edge of a terraced field, where he intentionally slowed his pace. Just as she lowered her head to strike, he lunged forward with all his might, and she went flying right over the ledge. He didn't bother with the dazed sow below, instead turning his attention back to the rest of the herd nearby. We see that the group hadn't moved an inch, and he certainly wasn't going to let them off that easily. He charged back in, barking loudly. To his surprise, 3 large sows formed a defensive line to protect the piglets behind them. It was a surprisingly coordinated move. And so, he began circling them, searching for a weakness, while the piglets remained alert and stayed close to their protectors. The piglets hid behind the large sows, leaving him without a single opening, until, suddenly, he executed a sharp reverse. He spun around and lunged forward, startling the large sow into a defensive turn, which accidentally bumped one of the piglets. The little one was sent tumbling out, and in an instant, he pounced toward it. But just as he was about to land the bite, the mother sow suddenly swung her head, knocking the piglet to safety before charging straight at him. He quickly veered away to escape. The chase led them deep into the cornfield, and once he gained a bit of distance with a burst of speed, he ducked into another row. He stayed low and held his breath as the massive sow thundered past him, continuing her charge toward nothing at all. Once she was far enough away, he doubled back to the herd. This time, the remaining 2 sows finally understood the danger. To be honest, their maternal instincts failed them here, as they abandoned the piglets and fled, leaving him to pick his target. He followed one piglet at a steady pace. When the little creature tried to fight back, he simply pinned it to the ground. With a swift bite to the neck, he began dragging his prize back toward his den. Our hero finally had his meal. Looking at the piglet, he couldn't help but feel that this life wasn't easy. Still, a catch this size would last for days. And so, he mastered the art of the hunt. Time slipped by, and an entire winter passed while he lived off the land. He used his claws to dig burrows, stockpiling potatoes and sweet potatoes while occasionally catching a rabbit or a stray pig. Having survived the harsh winter in the wild, he had transformed into a truly elite hunter. He was no longer a mere pet. Constant hunting had sharpened his senses and built his endurance. He believed he didn't need humans anymore, but nature had other plans. Because he had grown so rapidly, his old collar was now far too tight, making it difficult for him to even breathe properly. Worse still, parasites had taken up residence in his ears, causing an itch that was driving him absolutely mad. He needed help. He realized that if he didn't find a human to assist him, that collar would eventually be the end of him. It was a grim prospect. Yet he hesitated, terrified of losing his freedom or being sent back to a meat market. It was a difficult choice, to say the least. His internal debate was cut short by the sudden, frantic squealing of a pig. He stood up immediately and headed toward the sound. To his surprise, he saw at least 10 dogs swarming a wild pig. It was a puzzling sight, especially since some of them appeared to be wearing clothes. But on second thought, he realized these were likely hunting hounds used by humans. Where there are hounds, there are people. He wondered if they could help him. Well, he decided to risk it. Anything was better than this misery. And so, he cautiously approached the pack. But as he drew closer, he saw that those weren't clothes at all. The hounds were actually wearing tactical armor, and each one had a collar equipped with an antenna, likely a GPS tracker. He expected his presence to provoke hostility from the pack, but to his surprise, the armored dogs completely ignored him. They were far too busy controlling the pig. It was at that moment that we see a man climbing up the hillside. High above him, a drone was buzzing through the air, keeping a watchful eye on the entire scene below. The man arrived at the center of the pack holding a short blade, which he promptly drove into the pig's side. After finishing the job, he picked up his walkie-talkie and reported that the target, which he called Peppa, had been taken down. A middle-aged voice crackled back, calling him Brother Bing and telling him to drag the catch back before daybreak. Brother Bing looked down at the radio with a look of pure exhaustion. They were 3 hills away from their camp. He muttered to himself about the impossible task of dragging the pig back, then looked up to scan the surrounding terrain. When his eyes landed on our hero, he froze in sheer terror. He couldn't believe the size of the dog standing before him. Our hero was speechless at the man's reaction. He decided his best bet was to act like a perfectly ordinary, harmless dog. He lay down on the ground to show submission, wagging his tail to signal his friendly intentions. Brother Bing reached for his radio again. He told his partner, Lao Ba, that there was an extra dog in the pack, and an absolutely massive one at that. Lao Ba found it impossible to believe, noting they usually lost dogs rather than gained them. Seeing the man's lingering suspicion, our hero began to crawl forward on his belly, wagging his tail even more enthusiastically. Brother Bing was utterly baffled by the display. He had never seen a strange dog act so submissive upon a first meeting. Before long, our hero had crawled right up to Bing's feet. Feeling a bit embarrassed, he rolled onto the ground, tucked in his paws, and bared his belly. Brother Bing, a veteran dog trainer, understood the gesture immediately. He knelt down and reached out tentatively, but our hero quickly pressed a paw against his own mouth to show he wouldn't bite. Brother Bing was stunned. Where did this well-trained dog come from? He wondered. He assumed it must be a runaway. Good dog, what a good boy. Bing laughed, genuinely delighted by the encounter. In all his years of training, he usually lost dogs. He never expected to find one while hunting wild pigs, especially one this smart. Finding a dog like this felt like a stroke of luck. A moment later, he took his knife and cut a length of rope, intending to tie it to the dog's collar. However, as soon as he touched it, he realized the collar was incredibly tight. He unfastened the collar and looped the rope loosely around the dog's neck instead. Suddenly, our hero could finally breathe freely again. He stood up and let out a long, relieved sigh. It felt wonderful. Brother Bing, meanwhile, was happily patting his head. After that, Bing tied the rope to the pig's front legs and began the grueling task of dragging it back. The pig wasn't massive, perhaps under 200 pounds, but dragging it up a hillside alone was still an exhausting feat. To make matters worse, the other hounds were just jumping around him, refusing to help and occasionally trying to take a bite. Our hero realized this was his moment to shine. He had no intention of being treated like just another common hunting hound. He was willing to do the work, but he wanted the pampered life of a pet. And to get that, he needed to be liked. Since he wasn't exactly a handsome dog, he decided to rely on his intelligence. With that thought in mind, he grabbed the rope in his teeth and began to pull alongside Brother Bing. The man was absolutely astonished by the sight. He couldn't believe the dog actually knew how to help. In the 4 years since his team was formed, they had caught over 1,000 pigs. But he had never seen a single dog help drag the catch. He grew more fond of our hero by the second, patting his head again. He told the dog he didn't need to help, but our hero persisted anyway. Together, the man and the dog crossed 2 more forested hills before finally reaching a vehicle parked by the road. The car rattled along for a long time until they reached a fenced-in yard. As soon as they entered, Brother Bing went to prepare food for the dogs. While the other hounds were already locked in their pens, they all rushed to the spot closest to the stove, waiting for dinner. Suddenly one reddish-brown dog stood up against the fence and began to let out a series of truly unpleasant howls. It was a peculiar sound, not a bark or a wolf's howl, but something more like a donkey's bray. It was almost comical. When Brother Bing finally brought the food over, the dogs began to fight over it frantically. Our hero, however, didn't move a muscle. Seeing this, Bing laughed, noting that the dog wasn't in any rush to eat. He then scooped some cornmeal from the pot and handed it to him, giving the dog's body a firm squeeze. He realized the dog wasn't thin at all. He was pure muscle. Bing remarked that he must have lived a good life. Habitually, our hero shook his head several times, which Bing found quite unusual. He suddenly grabbed the dog's ear to investigate and spotted several engorged ticks. Before long, Bing had plucked the parasites away. With his second major problem finally solved, our hero was overjoyed. For now, he had no desire to leave. After all, if he fell ill alone in the mountains, it would be the end. Staying with these 2 men meant nothing more than the occasional hunt. With that comforting thought, he lay down on the ground and drifted off to sleep. Bing muttered that the dog was making himself right at home. The next morning, as soon as our hero opened his eyes, he saw Brother Bing squatting in front of him, eating meat buns. A moment later, he sat up and pushed his stainless steel bowl right to Bing's feet. Looking utterly surprised, Bing shouted to his partner, Lao Ba, that the dog was asking for food. Lao Ba ran over and squatted down, only for our hero to push the bowl toward his feet as well. What a good dog, they thought. Truly a remarkable creature. Lao Ba, a man of few words, couldn't stop praising him. Our hero knew that if they didn't offer food, he wouldn't snatch it. He simply rattled the bowl on the floor and lowered his head with a look of pure grievance. Bing couldn't stop laughing. He ended up feeding the dog by hand, and the bun was delicious. Naturally, the other dogs saw this and wanted some too, but they only knew how to snap and bite. Bing simply pushed them all away. The 2 men squatted in front of our hero, their excitement growing as they discussed how clever he was and how well his previous owner must have trained him. Bing estimated that the dog had likely been surviving in the mountains for 3 or 4 months, judging by how tight his collar had become. Lao Ba wondered aloud what he could have possibly eaten to survive, noting once again how remarkably firm the dog's muscles felt. They concluded that with muscles that tight and no signs of malnutrition, he must have been hunting for himself up in the mountains. Having just finished Bing's bun, our hero turned his gaze toward Lao Ba, but Lao Ba remained stoic, his face showing no emotion whatsoever. Realizing a different approach was needed to secure more rations, our hero decided it was time to turn on the charm. He sat up straight, lifted his front paws off the ground, and pressed them together in a polite gesture of thanks toward Lao Ba. Astonished that the dog actually knew how to say thank you, a delighted Lao Ba handed over 2 more buns while Bing laughed at the display. Bing noted the parasites again and decided to take him for vaccinations and deworming, momentarily leaving the rest of the dog farm behind. While other dogs wandered outside, our hero received a full bath, a rabies shot, and some medicine to clear out any internal pests. Once his fur was blown dry, he felt quite handsome, and it seemed Bing and Lao Ba agreed, as they couldn't stop taking photos of him. They immediately began bragging to their friends in group chats, showing off the incredible stroke of luck they'd had in the mountains the night before. However, some friends were skeptical, claiming the dog looked far too large and heavy to be of any use for mountain running. They argued that since he wasn't a purebred, he'd never handle the terrain and would end up being nothing more than a useless eater. Hearing these insults, Lao Ba, who had mostly been a silent observer, suddenly lost his patience with the critics. He told them to shut up if they didn't understand, pointing out that a pet dog surviving and thriving alone in the wild was proof enough of his skill. The skeptics doubled down, insisting that a dog this size would only eat them out of house and home without providing any value. Lao Ba issued a challenge. If this dog could actually hunt a wild boar on the mountain, what were they willing to lose in a bet? The challenger agreed, wagering his own dog, Grey Wolf, against any dog from Lao Ba's farm if our hero failed to catch a boar. And just like that, the deal was struck. We see our hero wondering where to go next, and before long, he approaches the door of the house and reaches up with a paw. He pulls the handle, opens the door, and walks right in, leaving Bing staring with wide eyes at what he calls a true pet dog. The fact that he can open doors earns him the right to stay inside, but as he looks back, he notices something unexpected. Bing has set up a phone stand and is currently live streaming. It turns out he is an online influencer, of all things. Instead of jumping on the bed, our hero sits by Bing's feet and leans in to peek at the phone screen. Suddenly, a massive dog head appears before the viewers, prompting a flood of comments asking where this giant beast came from. Bing can't stop laughing as he tells his audience that this dog is one of the most interesting creatures he's ever met. He explains how smart and friendly the dog is, noting that he didn't even have to catch him. The dog chose to follow him home. He even mentions how the dog helped him drag a boar last night. The one viewer skeptically asks if Bing thinks they are fools. Bing insists he isn't lying, claiming the dog is so intelligent he will do whatever he is told and offers to prove it to them. Bing stands up and points the camera at our hero, beginning to issue a series of commands to show off his new friend. Our hero executes every single command without a moment's hesitation, and once the performance is over, Bing asks the audience for a favor. He admits that neither he nor Lao Ba are good at names, so he asks the chat for suggestions, and Laifu immediately catches his eye. Bing decides that Laifu is a perfect name and asks the dog what he thinks. After a moment of thought, our hero nods and lets out a bark. The viewers are delighted by Laifu's thoughtful expression, and one female fan is so charmed that she sends a generous digital gift. A supercar animation flashes across the screen, and Bing quickly tells Laifu to thank the kind lady for her support. He immediately sits up and presses his paws together in a polite bow, which makes the girl on the other side of the screen laugh even harder. She sends another gift, telling Bing to buy Laifu some chicken legs, a suggestion that, naturally, makes our hero very happy indeed. He sits beside Bing, watching the comments fly by, and begins bowing to thank everyone without even needing a command. Once the stream ends, a very satisfied Bing confirms that his name is now officially Laifu, praising his incredible performance. True to his word, Bing reaches into the freezer a moment later, pulls out a whole chicken, and hands it to our hero, who catches it happily. He wags his tail, feeling his hard work finally paid off, but as he steps outside with the chicken, several other dogs immediately surround him. He pays them no mind, as these little guys wouldn't dare steal from him, though a blue-gray dog suddenly leaps out from the enclosure. Our hero prepares to drop his prize and fight, but it turns out the newcomer is a bit of a coward and doesn't even dare to get close. The dog simply watches from a distance with envy, and just like that, Laifu finishes his very first day in his new home. Early the next morning, while out for a break, he sees Lao Ba take a phone call before shouting to Bing to feed the dogs less at lunch. They are heading into the mountains tonight, and Bing asks with a hint of uncertainty if they should really bring Laifu along. Bing had acted tough during a group chat bet yesterday, but since he didn't actually see the boar catch, he's worried the dog might just run away. Lao Ba, however, trusts him completely, arguing that the dog is smart and would be a huge asset if he can truly hunt, even without armor. They decide he can serve as a support dog, and after feeding the pack, the two men head back to sleep to prepare for the night's journey. As evening falls, Bing and Lao Ba wake up to pack their gear, and Bing calls Laifu over to put something important on him. He fastens a GPS tracking collar around our hero's neck before moving onto a pile of heavy protective armor and collars for the others. The dogs wearing this armor are the tank dogs, mostly pit bulls or pit mixes, whose job is to charge in and soak up the damage. Their armor is battered and stained with old blood, a grim reminder that a large boar's tusks are nothing to laugh at. Since this is his first time hunting with a pack, our hero decides to observe closely and see exactly how these professionals work. Listening to the men, he learns the names of his teammates. There is Tiniu, a yellow dog with bowed legs, and Dahan, a red dog with white paws. If he had hands, he'd probably want to pet them, but instead, he jumps into the enclosure while the gear is being readied. The other dogs surround him with curiosity, though they remain cautious and distant rather than friendly or hostile. He walks up to a dog named Damao, who looks remarkably like a husky, which is confusing as huskies are usually sled dogs, not hunters. At that moment, Bing and Lao Ba begin loading the dogs into the truck. Including our hero, a total of 14 dogs are heading out to battle. 4 of them are wearing armor, and since our hero doesn't feel like squeezing into the truck bed, he opens the door with his mouth and hops into the back seat. The truck travels for over an hour before finally coming to a stop, where Lao Ba pulls out a drone to prepare for flight while Bing starts his stream. He begins talking to his audience, explaining they've arrived to protect the local farms, and though the drone isn't up yet, he mentions that Lai Fu is with them. He challenges anyone who says the dog can't catch boars, just as the drone's thermal imaging feed connects to the live stream for everyone to see. With the thermal camera active, a quick sweep reveals every living thing within hundreds of meters, a very handy tool for this kind of work, to be honest. The drone begins searching southwest of the village based on local tips, and it doesn't take long at all for them to find what they are looking for. Barely 5 minutes after takeoff, Lao Ba shouts that they've found the target. 3 boars are in the woods just 500 meters away. Bing and Lao Ba immediately hop out of the truck, and our hero follows suit, jumping down from the front passenger seat to join the action. Bing grabs his dagger and heads toward the drone's location while talking into his radio, and Lao Ba moves to open the back of the truck. A moment later, over a dozen dogs scramble out of the truck bed, immediately locating Bing and racing toward him to start the hunt. While the other dogs are perfectly silent, Dahan, the one who sounds a bit like a braying donkey, starts barking the moment his paws hit the ground. He seems to be telling everyone to hurry up, but the noise startles the boars in the distance, and they begin to flee through the brush. Xiongda and Yogwai, the 2 lead dogs, are the first to sense the prey's movement, and they charge toward the targets without a second thought. The other dogs see them go and accelerate to keep up, though the heavy tank dogs like Dahan and Heihu are naturally much slower in the chase. They are quickly left behind, but our hero doesn't rush out immediately. Instead, he looks up at Bing, waiting for the signal to join the fray. Bing looks down and gives him the word to go, and our hero takes off instantly. He's large, but his Malinois genes give him incredible explosive power. He overtakes the heavy tank dogs in just a few strides, while the lead dog, Yogwai, maintains the front position thanks to his lean greyhound heritage. To be perfectly honest, our hero can't quite catch the fastest one, but he keeps pace with Xiongda as the pack moves through the trees. Since the dogs haven't seen the boars with their own eyes yet, they aren't at full sprint, keeping Xiongda in second and our hero in third. They quickly close the distance, but the boars realize they are being hunted and accelerate, splitting up in 3 different directions to escape. As the boars flee, our hero and the 2 lead dogs pull ahead of the pack, and we see the 3 of them break away to pursue a single target. Behind them, Chihuahua leads the other dogs but fails to make the turn, chasing a different boar and drawing most of the heavy tank dogs away with her. Bing calls out over the radio, telling Lao Ba to keep the drone camera focused on Lai Fu's group for the audience to see. He tells the stream that the hunt itself is secondary today. What matters is seeing if Lai Fu can actually make the catch while everyone is watching. Our hero appears as a large, bright mass on the thermal imaging, and Lao Ba spots him immediately as he keeps pace right behind Yogwai. Just as Yogwai closes in on the boar's heels, the clever beast, which had been weaving through the dense forest, suddenly makes a move. It stops dead in its tracks and spins around to attack, but Yogwai pivots gracefully to avoid the tusks, and in an instant, the roles are reversed. Now the dog is behind the boar again, and this is when Xiongda lunges forward, forcing the boar to turn and strike at him instead. Xiongda leads the boar on a short chase before Yogwai circles back to block its retreat, leaving the animal trapped and indecisive. Our hero doesn't join the attack immediately, mostly because this boar only weighs about 100 pounds, something he could easily handle alone. He finds it quite amusing to watch the others work together to keep the boar distracted, and after a moment, he begins to circle around to the rear. He knows these creatures are strong and difficult to take down. Usually, he would chase them until they are exhausted before making his move. But things are different now, as he only needs to pin the boar down until the humans catch up, so he prepares his strike from behind. He charges suddenly, and though the boar tries to bolt, Yogwai and Xiongda are there to cut off its escape routes instantly. Our hero taps into his maximum speed, lunging forward to sink his teeth into the boar just as Lao Ba watches through the drone feed. Lao Ba mutters for him to wait for the backup dogs, fearing that our hero might accidentally let the boar slip away for another long chase. But our hero has no intention of letting go. His hunting instincts tell him that once you have a grip, you never let the prey escape. He bites down hard on the boar's hind leg and gives a powerful lateral yank, completely stripping the beast of its balance and slamming it to the ground. Xiongda and Yogwai seize the opportunity, with Yogwai pinning a hind leg, while Xiongda goes for one of the front legs. The boar struggles desperately, but our hero is no amateur, and he uses the control provided by his teammates to secure the catch. Seizing the moment, our hero rushes to the front and bites down on the boar's snout, causing Lao Ba to shout in excitement that Bing has been outdone. He praises Laifu's incredible speed, noting that the dog is doing the heavy lifting usually reserved for the humans, which leaves Bing absolutely delighted. Following the GPS signal, Bing accelerates toward the location, remarking on how clever Laifu is to have anticipated the boar's every move. He realizes the dog knew exactly how to reposition for the snout grip, ensuring the boar can't escape. 2.5 minutes later, Bing finally arrives. He quickly draws his dagger and strikes true, causing the boar to struggle violently and let out a series of piercing cries. In less than a minute, the boar's strength begins to fade, and Bing picks up his radio to check on the rest of the pack. Hearing the distant barking of dogs calling for backup, we see our hero immediately charge off toward the sound of the next confrontation. Since this last boar has led them quite a distance, he pushes himself to a full sprint, using his large frame and momentum to lead the way. He races toward the drone's position, and before long, he and Yogwai arrive to find the boar backed against a terrace wall. A single, smaller dog is barking furiously at the beast, which is a massive specimen clearly weighing over 200 pounds. Our hero wisely decides not to rush in blindly, waiting instead for the other dogs to arrive and bolster their numbers. Just then, a smaller but fierce female dog tries to test the boar with a lunging bite, only for the beast to toss her aside with its powerful head. The boar breaks through the circle and tries to bolt, but with so many dogs in pursuit, a clean escape is, to be honest, quite impossible. He hasn't been running for 20 seconds before a dog nips his rear, forcing the boar to turn and fight back, only to be struck again. The dog that was tossed earlier gets back up, but we notice a small wound on its ribs where the boar's tusks made contact. It turns out this particular boar has dangerous tusks, leading to a tense standoff that lasts for the next 2.5 minutes. Suddenly, one of the dogs sees an opening and lunges, sinking its teeth into the boar's ear while the rest of the pack begins to close in. This act serves as a signal for the other dogs to swarm the boar, their coordinated bites turning the animal's cries into a desperate silence. They continue to strike at the boar, but as a dog named Defong bites the ear, the boar twists and slams a white dog into him. Despite the impact and the boar's tusks grazing his ribs, the dog refuses to let go, even as his front legs are lifted off the ground. As the dog bites down on the boar's ear, we can finally breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that Zhong Toa is wearing protective armor. Otherwise, that strike could have been far more serious than a simple small cut. With that single decisive move, any hope the boar had of breaking free has vanished, and the rest of the pack rushes in immediately, some grabbing ears while others latch onto legs. Watching them, we begin to understand exactly how these dogs operate as a team. First, the lead dog with the keenest sense of smell tracks the boar, and once the target is located, they work to intercept and corner it. Then, the faster support dogs arrive to help the leader keep the boar from escaping, and finally, when Zhong Toa arrives, he goes straight for the attack. As soon as Zhong Toa commits to the fight, the other dogs find their courage and join in, ensuring the boar has no chance of flight, leaving it to let out a series of desperate, piercing cries. Even though Defong seemed to give the boar a head start earlier, he proved surprisingly brave when the Real chase began, which is, to be honest, quite impressive. One can't help but admire these dogs. The leaders are clever and the attackers are fearless. Seeing them surround and outmaneuver the boar is truly a sight to behold. The process is genuinely exhilarating, and our hero finds himself caught up in the thrill of the hunt as he charges forward once more. He bites down firmly on the boar's snout just as Bing arrives to finish the job with his blade. In the end, not a single one of the 3 boars escaped. Bing is clearly delighted, petting the dogs and waving triumphantly at the drone, praising them for a battle well fought. After that, he pats our hero's head, telling Laifu he is a true treasure and that his name was no mistake. Even Lao Ba joins in the praise, noting how incredible this dog is, running as fast as a bear and holding down the very first boar they caught. They truly feel they've found a diamond in the rough. Yet, our hero feels a strange melancholy. He reflects on how he felt like a failure as a human, busy but empty-handed in middle age, only to find that as a dog, he is suddenly showered with praise. When they return home, Bing rewards him with a whole chicken and a bowl of premium food. Since he performed so well, he gets a special meal all to himself. Once full, he decides to sleep outside on the concrete steps, which is probably for the best. Covered in mud and the scent of the hunt, he chooses not to go inside, but his rest is cut short early the next morning by a sudden commotion. He jumps into the enclosure to see who is making such a racket, only to find a black dog that didn't go to the mountains yesterday barking for no reason. The moment our hero approaches, the noisy dog immediately lowers its head and tucks its tail in submission. Once silence is restored, he simply turns and walks away. Who would have thought that just as he was about to jump out, that noisy fellow would try to challenge him? He quickly bites down on the dog's neck, causing it to let out a series of desperate yelps and struggles, fearing he might wake Bing and the others. He drags the dog into a kennel to finish the lesson. He has no intention of killing him, of course. He just wants to teach him a lesson until he is terrified. The dog is trembling so much he actually wets himself, and only then does our hero release his grip. No longer sleepy, he begins to wander through the yard. He inspects the cages one by one, and it turns out he has a bit of a preference for aesthetics, finding himself drawn to the handsome dogs like De Mao and Shuihua. Those particular white dogs are quite striking, aren't they? However, while Defong might not be the most handsome, he has a certain clumsy charm about him. There is something adorable about his dazed expression and the funny way he hunts. Looking at all these brave dogs gathered before him, he makes a silent vow. Once he becomes a famous internet star, he'll make sure they all get the best treats. Meanwhile, Bing has finally woken up. The first thing Bing does is clip a video of yesterday's hunt and post it directly into his hunting dog group chat to show off. He challenges everyone to look and see who dared to say Lai Fu couldn't catch a boar. Who has ever seen a dog this fierce with such a massive build? He boasts that Lai Fu has the speed of a lead dog and managed to take down a 100-pound boar all on his own. Bing is practically beaming as he sends voice notes. You can hear the pure satisfaction in his voice. It seems the group has been discussing yesterday's livestream for a while now, and they are all stunned. No one expected a dog of his size to move that fast, let alone have the courage to strike the moment he caught up to the boar. Even the man who made the bet with Bing admits defeat, offering to give Bing the best dog from his own kennel as promised. However, Bing is feeling generous. He grandly declines, telling his friend that they are brothers and he couldn't possibly take his prized possession. It was all just in good fun, after all. He even offers to buy the man dinner sometime. Another group member, feeling even more ambitious, asks Bing to name a price for Lai Fu. He argues that a dog this good shouldn't be wasted on mountain hunts where he might get hurt. He suggests Lai Fu is like a legendary horse that shouldn't be overworked. Bing scoffs at the nonsense, claiming Lai Fu is smarter than he is and far too clever to get himself killed. He makes his stance very clear. He wouldn't sell him for $1 million. Our hero looks up at Bing, wondering if he's serious. Is he really worth that much? After chatting with the group for a bit, Bing starts his daily live stream, and we see our hero is ready for whatever comes next. Sitting right beside him, we see our hero as Bing addresses his viewers, telling them about the 3 boars from last night. Look at our Lai Fu, he says. He explains that Lai Fu is a dog he simply found on the mountain, yet he can work perfectly. Bing strokes his fur while praising him nonstop. He thanks a viewer named Sister Chi for a virtual hot air balloon gift, mentioning he's already given Lai Fu a chicken leg. Eat up, Lai Fu, he encourages. Eating a whole chicken is a level of treatment unique to our hero in this kennel. He actually recognizes Sister Chi. She's the one who sent several sports car gifts last time. Since she specifically asked for him to have a treat, he feels he should show some gratitude. So he sticks out his tongue and tries his best to squeeze out a smile. He even begins waving his front paws enthusiastically. Just then, someone in the live stream asks to join the voice chat to speak with Bing. This person is clearly a big spender in the room, judging by his high account level. Bing greets him warmly, asking, "Brotherly, what's on your mind?" Brotherly gets straight to the point, asking if Lai Fu is for sale and offering 10 large stacks of cash. Bing is momentarily taken aback by the offer. He tells the big spender that he could have any other dog in the kennel if he wanted, but when it comes to buying Lai Fu, things are different. Bing admits he hasn't even had enough time to appreciate the dog himself yet, so he certainly can't sell him. He invites Lee to come visit for a few days instead. Lee agrees to check his schedule for a visit, but leaves Bing with a final suggestion. He points out just how incredibly smart Lai Fu seems to be. He suggests that if Bing teaches him some tricks and posts the videos online, the dog is practically guaranteed to become a viral sensation. Hearing this, our hero's eyes light up. It's no wonder this man is a top-tier viewer. His vision for the future is quite impressive, wouldn't you agree? However, Bing feels a bit puzzled, admitting he doesn't really know how to film professional videos. Brotherly patiently explains the process to him. He tells Bing to just treat it like posting on social media, noting that Bing already shares videos in their group chat anyway. Going viral is a process, after all. He explains that one must first build up a collection of work. Bing decides to take Brotherly's advice to heart and give it a try. Bing boasts to the audience that Lai Fu is great at performing, and he turns the camera toward our hero to give everyone a little demonstration. To be honest, the simple commands Bing gives are far too easy for a dog of his intellect, so he decides to increase the difficulty on his own. Not only does he stand up on his hind legs, but he even performs a full 360-degree spin. After the turn, he drops down into a front leg handstand. To finish the show, he begins walking forward using only his 2 front legs. The viewers in the live stream are left completely stunned by what they're seeing. The viewers are loving it, as our hero's performance is a non-stop show, and a wave of virtual gifts starts pouring in immediately. As he continues his routine, Bing shouts out in excitement, thanking Brotherly for sending a massive virtual airplane gift. Hearing about the airplane, our hero stops his performance, drops his front legs, and raises his hindquarters high into the air. He lowers his head and touches his forehead to the ground in a deep bow, making Bing burst into a fit of laughter. The viewers are stunned, wondering how one even trains a dog to kowtow like that after receiving a gift. Even the big spender feels a bit bashful, so our hero decides to give them one more encore while Bing continues his thanks. He knocks his head against the ground once more, prompting Brotherly to speak for everyone watching the stream. He notes that while it's incredible to see such a dog, Bing shouldn't just stand there laughing at the spectacle. He points out that it's not right to let the dog perform without any rewards, as even professional trainers give treats for every trick. Laifu might be smart, but if Bing doesn't start rewarding him, the dog might lose interest, and our hero couldn't agree more. Deep down, he wants to bow to Brotherly again for being so understanding, so he barks at Bing to get his attention. Brotherly continues, insisting that Bing needs to take excellent care of Laifu if he wants this to work out. He explains that if they play their cards right, this dog could change Bing's life, especially with how the internet works these days. Once someone goes viral, money is no longer an issue, and Bing promises that from now on, Laifu will get the best treatment. But Lee goes a step further, suggesting that even the things Bing is reluctant to eat himself should be offered to the dog first. Bing is a bit shocked to find himself second in the hierarchy, and after a bit more chatting, the livestream finally ends. As the two men sit down to eat, our hero waits nearby, only to see Bing spit a spare rib bone onto the floor for him. He stares at the bone in disbelief. Being offered leftovers, and pre-chewed ones at that, is simply an insult he cannot endure. He tries to voice his frustration, but all that comes out is a series of muffled barks, which makes Lao Ba laugh. Realizing the dog won't touch the bone, Lao Ba kindly splits his own vegetables and steamed buns in half to share with him. Our hero offers a polite bow of thanks before shooting a sharp, sideways glare at Bing, who looks utterly hurt that Laifu would actually glare at him. However, Lao Ba cuts through the drama with a serious tone, telling them it's time for business as they need to head back up the mountain tonight. The villagers claim there are more than just 3 boars, at least a dozen, so they plan to investigate and settle the matter once and for all. When night falls, the two men begin outfitting the dogs, and while Bing is strapping on our hero's GPS tracker, he pauses to ask a question. He asks Lao Ba if they should order a custom set of armor for Laifu, and Lao Ba agrees it's a good idea for the dog's safety. With armor on, he'll be much safer, though they wonder if his build is better suited for leading the pack or acting as a catch dog. The pack they are taking today is similar to yesterday's, and once his tracker is secure, our hero takes his usual spot in the back seat. Before long, they arrive at the previous location and launch the drone, but the battery is nearly drained before they find any sign of the boars. Because of this, Lao Ba has to move the car to a new vantage point, and it is precisely at that moment that things get interesting. The drone finally picks up several glowing heat signatures, though they appear to be at least 400 meters away across difficult terrain. There is a deep ravine blocking the path, but Lao Ba excitedly tells Bing that the merchandise has finally arrived. The ground is wild and the trekking will be brutal, but Bing looks at the drone footage, grits his teeth, and decides they have to do it. He insists on going first, telling Lao Ba to wait until he clears the first ridge before releasing the dogs, so he doesn't get left too far behind. Lao Ba agrees to the plan, and Bing immediately hops out of the truck armed with nothing but a short knife and his walkie-talkie. Our hero, however, thinks this is all far too slow. In his mind, it would be much simpler if he just went ahead to keep an eye on the boars. So, the very second Bing opens the door, our hero bolts past him, disappearing into the darkness of the night with a few powerful leaps. Bing realizes he can't call the dog back and frantically shouts to Lao Ba to check the drone and see where the merchandise is heading. Lao Ba adjusts the drone's flight path and circles back, catching sight of our hero as he effortlessly scales the crest of a hill. We watch as he leaps straight off a cliffside and then bounds up a steep embankment higher than a grown man in the blink of an eye. Lao Ba is left completely stunned by the display, muttering that this dog must know martial arts before turning back to a bewildered Bing. Lao Ba shouts that the merchandise is heading straight for the boars at incredible speed, urging Bing to move forward as fast as he can. He tells Bing that if Laifu can hold them, he'll release the rest of the pack, but if not, Bing must bring him back. Bing quickly agrees. As Bing starts moving toward our hero's position, we see Laifu using his sharp sense of smell to pinpoint exactly where the boars are hiding. He approaches rapidly, but interestingly, when he is less than 100 meters away, he slows his pace to a careful, silent crawl. Watching this on the drone feed, Bing and Lao Ba are visibly excited, marveling at the fact that this dog is a natural-born hunter. Lao Ba points out to the viewers that Laifu slowed down near the boars to avoid startling them, a level of tactical awareness rarely seen. He explains that this kind of stealthy approach is a wild hunting technique, something that none of their other dogs have ever mastered. Our hero, of course, has no idea he is currently shocking everyone watching. He is simply focused on following the scent through the brush. As he gets closer, he discovers a whole sounder of boars, and surprisingly, not a single one is on guard. They are all fast asleep. However, instead of attacking immediately, he begins to circle around them, intending to drive the entire group back toward the men. When he finally closes within 10 meters, the boars finally notice him, and 6 or 7 of them scramble to their feet and bolt. He immediately accelerates to give chase from behind, but he doesn't overtake them, choosing instead to match their speed perfectly. Lao Ba is stunned by this display of intelligence, realizing that Lai Fu is intentionally herding the boars back toward their location. The viewers in the live stream are equally amazed as our hero chases the boars back toward the cliffside they passed earlier. At that precise moment, he begins to bark loudly and puts on a sudden burst of speed, charging directly at the panicked animals. His plan was likely to drive them off the cliff, but the boars aren't entirely foolish. They won't jump unless they have no other choice. The pack begins to scatter to the sides to escape, and we see our hero accelerate at full power, chasing them for several dozen meters. Just as he reaches the tail of the group, the largest boar suddenly whips around and charges straight at him with surprising ferocity. But our hero is well acquainted with these tactics, and knowing the countercharge is a common move, he executes a sharp, sudden turn. In the blink of an eye, the roles are reversed, and the boar is now chasing him. He leads it away for a distance before it suddenly stops. Who would have thought that after turning back, our hero wouldn't face him head-on, but instead began circling behind him? No animal willingly exposes its back to an enemy, and seeing how difficult Lai Fu is to pin down, the boar gives chase once more. However, Lai Fu uses a series of rapid turns to lead the beast in circles, leaving Lao Ba completely stunned by the display. He even stops himself from releasing the other dogs, wanting to see just how far this performance can go, while Bing marvels at the sight. Bing admits he's speechless, telling the viewers to flood the chat with praise because Lai Fu is playing with that boar like it's a toy. In an instant, the screen is filled with messages of Lai Fu is the GOAT, and one impressed viewer even sends a massive donation. Meanwhile, the 200-pound boar chasing our hero is starting to feel the strain, its stamina quickly fading. As its energy wanes, fear begins to set in, and before long, the boar turns to flee. But while its strength is failing, Lai Fu's is not. For our hero, this was merely a warm-up, and he easily picks up the pace to pursue the retreating animal once again. This time, the boar doesn't even try to counterattack, focusing only on escape as Lai Fu tries to maneuver him toward the cliff. The boar stubbornly refuses to go over the edge, so Lai Fu decides it's time to apply a bit more pressure and lunges forward. He bites down on the boar's ear just as Bing, having climbed over a ridge, sees the live feed and realizes the hunt has escalated. Bing shouts for Lao Ba to release the rest of the pack immediately, and Lao Ba doesn't hesitate for a single second. The other dogs had caught the scent from the truck long ago and were already frantic to join the fray, so they all pile out at once. They scramble over each other to get moving, with the lead dog bolting ahead, while back at the cliff, our hero maintains his grip. The boar tries to swing its head to strike him with its tusks, but Lai Fu had already predicted the move. He knew that was coming. In the next heartbeat, he shifts his weight and bites down hard on the other ear. The sharp pain is more than the beast can bear. Driven by agony, the boar tries to run again, but our hero isn't about to let go now that he's committed to this chase. He is determined to drive the creature over that ledge, and in its blind panic, the boar finally loses its sense of direction. As Lai Fu closes in one last time, the boar recklessly leaps straight off the cliff, and we watch as it struggles to stand below. One of its front legs is already broken, and seeing the beast finally restrained, our hero satisfiedly looks for a gentle slope to head down. Bing can't believe his eyes, shouting to the viewers that Lai Fu actually managed to drive the boar right off the cliff. It seems Lai Fu's plan from the start was to force the boar over the edge, though the height wasn't quite enough to finish the job. Lao Ba is at a total loss for words, while the chat is absolutely exploding with disbelief at what they've just witnessed. It's not every day we see a dog using complex tactics and the terrain itself to win a fight. By the time Lai Fu reaches the bottom, the boar is pinned. The beast sits there, unable to move, just as Bing catches up, and it turns out Bing is quite the bold hunter himself. He immediately draws the blade from his arm, ready to finish the boar, though our hero worries the beast might lash out in its final moments. To protect him, Lai Fu lunges forward to pin the boar's ear again, just as the sharp blade finds its mark. After a few final struggles, the boar goes still, and Bing immediately rushes over to grab Lai Fu's head, calling him his absolute treasure. He asks how a dog can be this incredible, and Lai Fu simply tilts his head with pride, as if to say this was just a standard day's work. Deep down, he knows Bing better be filming this well, since this entire performance was meant to impress the fans and the big donors. A moment later, the rest of the pack finally arrives on the scene, and even though the boar has already fallen, they all pile on at once to tear at the prey. Lao Ba tells the viewers they've all seen Lai Fu's legendary performance now. Aside from calling Lai Fu a beast, there's really nothing left to say, so Lao Ba checks the drone to see if the other boars escaped. He quickly spots another one that had fled earlier. The drone's GPS puts the target at a distance of about 200 meters. That's a distance worth trying for, so Lao Ba grabs his walkie-talkie and alerts Bing to the new target nearby. In fact, the lead dog has already caught the scent, and a second later, the pack is ready to move again. The lead dog bolts out with over a dozen others following close behind, their bodies forming a long, focused line across the terrain. Our hero joins the pursuit, running side by side with the lead dog, but this new boar is incredibly alert and wary. It starts running before they even get close, but since boars are slow on the uphill, Lai Fu is on its heels in no time. Suddenly, the boar turns back to attack, but our hero quickly dodges while the lead dog and another fast helper behind him immediately scramble out of the way. Right behind them is Lala, a heavy hitter wearing protective leg gear. We wouldn't expect it from such a quiet and well-behaved dog, but when facing the boar, Lala shows absolutely no fear, lunging forward in an instant to latch onto an ear. The boar let out a piercing howl and thrashed violently to break free, sending Lala flying through the air, though, impressively, the dog refused to let go. At that exact moment, the lead dog dives in to bite the boar's front leg. While the lead dog might not challenge a boar alone, as soon as a heavy hitter makes a move, the others join in. Another heavy hitter, named Lungto, soon arrives to grab the other ear. In the blink of an eye, Lai Fu bites a back leg and pulls back with all his might, lifting the boar's limb off the ground. This significantly weakens its struggle, and finally, over a dozen dogs swarm the young male boar. The pack surrounds the prey so tightly that even when Bing arrives, he can't find an opening to use his knife, let alone the other dogs like Haguai, who can't even find a spot to get a bite in. Bing marvels at how quickly they finish the job. Meanwhile, Lao Ba quickly packs up the drone and ends the live stream to help haul the boar. Since they returned late, Lao Ba goes to handle the meat while Bing finishes feeding the pack. When Lao Ba returns with breakfast, our hero unceremoniously follows him with his food bowl in his mouth. Lao Ba isn't even annoyed, offering up some low-salt meat buns he specially ordered. Lai Fu nods with satisfaction. Lao Ba certainly knows how to treat a professional. However, as Bing eats, his phone begins buzzing incessantly. It turns out their hunting group chat has absolutely exploded because someone shared the recording of Lai Fu driving that boar off the cliff yesterday. Since these are all professional hound trainers, they immediately recognize the sheer skill involved, and the discussion is becoming quite heated. After all, those maneuvers showcased a brilliant mind and elite hunting tactics. To be honest, he seems more human than dog. One must admit that while most hounds lack the instincts of wild animals, Lai Fu seems to have surpassed them entirely. The messages keep pouring in, with one friend jokingly asking Bing how a guy with his questionable personality managed to find such a dog. After swallowing a bite of his bun, Bing immediately fires back with passion, asking if anyone has ever seen a dog this talented. He boasts that Lai Fu is a top-tier lead dog and a heavy hitter who can take down a 250-pound boar all on his own. Bing claims that Lai Fu only came home with him because he recognized a good soul, and honestly, he believes Lai Fu is the best hound in the country. He challenges anyone to prove him wrong, declaring he wouldn't trade this dog for a mountain of gold. Beside him, Lai Fu nods in quiet approval. It's good to see Bing finally understands his value. Before long, exhaustion hits Bing hard, and he pats Lai Fu's head, saying everything else can wait until he wakes up. Lai Fu is tired too, so he finishes an apple and settles in for a nap. However, Bing has barely closed his eyes when a video call rouses him. Bing answers the phone with a grumpy growl, asking what could be so important. The voice on the other end jokes that he can sleep when he's dead. Bing snaps back that he'll outlive them all, and after a bit of friendly bickering, he impatiently tells his friend to get to the point. The friend, Lao Li, asks to borrow Lai Fu for a few days. Bing scoffs, telling him there's no chance. He wouldn't even trade his wife for this dog. Lao Li laughs, warning Bing that his wife would kill him if she heard that, before marveling again at Bing's incredible luck in finding such a hound. Lao Li claims that if the dog were his, he'd build a shrine for it and start every morning by bowing to it in respect. He even jokes he'd kick his wife out of bed just to cuddle with the dog. Bing laughs and tells him that if he wants to bow, he can do it right now over the video. Curious about who is saying such nice things, Lai Fu hops onto the bed to see the screen. Lao Li's face lights up the moment the dog appears. Excitedly, he invites Lai Fu to come play at Uncle Li's house for a few days. Since the man is being so polite, Lai Fu decides to offer a response. He sticks out his tongue and tries his best to form a smile, which absolutely delights Lao Li on the other end of the line. Lao Li calls him a good boy and promises to visit soon, but then his tone turns serious as he addresses Bing directly. He tells Bing that he really needs to take better care of this dog, worried that Bing's usual carelessness might lead to Lai Fu getting lost or mistreated. He pleads with Bing to be responsible, and Bing finally turns serious, promising he will look after him. After hanging up, Bing looks over to see Lai Fu munching on half a ham sausage. He quickly snatches it away, muttering that they need to start eating healthier from now on. We see Bing decide that from now on, they will buy fresh meat to make their own sausages. To be honest, the idea of switching to pure meat sounds like a dream come true. Lai Fu, ever the generous soul, grabs a ham sausage and brings it over to the other dogs to share a snack. Meanwhile, Bing quietly calls his father over to witness the scene. Bing whispers in disbelief, asking if this is even a dog anymore or if he's actually a spirit. He can't believe Lai Fu would share his food, let alone know how to remove the packaging. He even remembers to throw the wrapper away. It's almost eerie. It's not every day you see a dog playing host to other dogs, and seeing this, Bing's father quickly grabs his phone. He starts recording immediately. They haven't even finished uploading yesterday's footage. And here is another viral moment. The two of them spend quite a while tinkering with the upload. Finally, the first video goes live. It's the footage of the hunt. Laifu watches along from the side for a moment, curious to see how he looks on the small screen. To be perfectly honest, the father's editing skills are a bit lacking. The clips feel a bit messy and disorganized, lacking that certain spark that draws a viewer in. The blood-pumping excitement of the hunt is buried under poor cuts, though the segments featuring Laifu are at least coherent. The background music, however, is a bit of a disaster. It seems our duo could really use a professional editor. Before long, fans start noticing the post, though many are still unaware that a new member has joined the team. Those who see Laifu's maneuvers are stunned, with some guessing he's a specialized lure or even one of the famous hunting dogs. Bing quickly jumps into the comments to set the record straight. After explaining the situation, Bing posts a photo of Laifu. The dog looks as dignified and upright as if he were posing for an official government ID. The image is crystal clear, showing off those large, alert ears standing tall. Naturally, it doesn't take long for the comment section to be absolutely overwhelmed by fans. People are shocked that a dog can move with such tactical precision. Pigs aren't actually stupid. Their intelligence is quite high among animals, but this is something else entirely. While a pig might not be much dumber than an average dog, Laifu's intelligence is on a completely different level. He watches the praise roll in, feeling quite satisfied with himself. The fans can't believe one dog could handle a 250-pound boar. One friend even jokingly asks Bing why his dog has suddenly moved into Bing's house. Bing spends the entire evening glued to his phone, laughing as he chats with the group. Most of the time, of course, he is just shamelessly bragging about his new companion. He nearly causes a riot in the group chat with his boasting, but since he's being so attentive to Laifu's needs, the dog decides to play along whenever Bing needs to show off. The next morning, a light rain begins to fall. Even though it only lasts 2 hours, the damp ground means they won't be heading up the mountain tonight. Just then, Bing's phone rings. It's a friend calling to say they're coming over. Bing gets up to find his father, telling him that Captain Wang and his crew are arriving today. They want to hang out with the team for a couple of days. Bing's father agrees, suggesting they clear the area and set up the portable fencing to make some room. We see them making calls to find a suitable spot for both teams to play together. Before long, 2 cars pull up outside, and one of them is packed to the brim with dogs. Bing greets them with a smile, while his father forces a polite grin. Captain Wang is a stout man whose build suggests he's better suited for piloting a drone than running through the brush. As soon as he arrives, he starts looking everywhere for Laifu. He eagerly asks Bing to show him where the dog is. Bing calls out, but Laifu remains perched on the concrete steps, refusing to budge. The ground below is still damp from the rain, and Laifu, it seems, has no intention of getting his paws dirty. Bing quickly explains the situation. He tells them that Laifu is very obedient, but simply dislikes the wet ground. Captain Wang doesn't mind. Many clean freak dogs are like that, after all. It's perfectly normal behavior. He walks toward the dog, marveling at his size, estimating him to be well over 100 pounds. He reaches out to pet him, but Laifu tilts his head to dodge the hand. To be honest, Laifu seems unimpressed that the man arrived empty-handed. Captain Wang doesn't quite catch the hint and keeps trying to pet him, asking again if such a dog was truly found and not bought. Bing asks if he'd really lie about that. Since Wang is a fellow hound enthusiast, he knows Bing couldn't have taught a pet those specific hunting skills. Captain Wang nods, conceding that Bing has a point. Shortly after, he lets all of his own dogs out of the vehicles to stretch their legs. Meanwhile, Laifu finds himself surrounded by the crew. Unfortunately, these guys didn't bring any treats. They just want to stare and poke at him. One rubs his head, another tugs at his skin, and someone even tries to check his teeth. Eventually, Laifu grows tired of being treated like an exhibit. He pushes his way through the crowd, opens the door himself, goes inside, and even manages to close the door behind him. After that, Bing's father, whom we know as Old Ba, asks Captain Wang for help with video editing. Initially, they had no idea how to handle social media. It was Captain Wang who taught them the ropes. With his help, they quickly polish a new video, and Old Ba posts it while the hype is still fresh. After a rest and an early dinner, they begin loading the dogs. Laifu is a must-have, of course, but with Wang's team here, they can leave some others behind. Since Captain Wang brought his elite squad, Old Ba only selects his most capable workers to join the hunt this evening. He picks Dadu and Yalizi, as their working time is a bit shorter. With such a formidable combined force, they need a high-difficulty target. And so, Old Ba sifts through his intel and selects an area where the boars are most active. Soon, he is leading the way in his car. As Old Ba leads the way, Bing looks back at Laifu, who has claimed the entire back seat for himself. Usually, Bing is the one lounging back there, but Laifu just gives him a look as they arrive near a village. The two teams gather as Old Ba explains that this particular village has been hit hard by wild boars lately. He and Bing tried hunting here before, but failed. These boars are incredibly alert and difficult to catch. He suggests Wang's team search the left while they take the right, and soon, 2 drones take to the sky. With their efficiency doubled, they spot a boar within 5 minutes, though it's far too close to the village. They decide to use the drones to flush it out, as releasing the dogs so close to homes is far too risky. If a chased boar charges into the village, it could hurt someone or cause damage, a headache they'd rather avoid. Even at night, people are still moving about, so Old Ba uses the drone's buzzing to spook the wary boars. The boar runs about 300 meters before stopping, prompting Old Ba to fly higher and plan a route. Bing notes that these boars have become quite clever, but they agree they have to give it a try regardless. After all, protecting the local farms is their primary mission, even more important than the livestream itself. Even if they don't catch the boars, they must drive them away, so Bing suggests a new tactical approach. He proposes letting Laifu out first to pin one down, making it easier to manage the other dogs later. Old Ba agrees and consults with Captain Wong, explaining that the distance is currently a bit too great. He wants Laifu to hold the boar in place first, just like the impressive display in their previous video. Captain Wong's team is eager to see the big dog in action, so they pull over without a second thought. Bing opens the door for Laifu, who has already caught the scent and understood the plan from their conversation. The dog bolts toward the target immediately. He knows he has a reputation to uphold in front of these strangers. Bing starts the live stream, inviting the viewers to watch Laifu's performance and guess what happens next. The viewers wonder if Laifu can hold his ground, and just then, Old Ba shouts excitedly that it has begun. Laifu changes direction, intending to take a long detour to drive the boar back, just as he did last time. Since the boar has already been spooked once, Laifu must be cautious, circling all the way to the mountain behind it. In the livestream, viewers see his movement and start shouting that the dog is running away, which is quite a misunderstanding. Old Ba indignantly corrects them, explaining that Laifu is circling back because he is simply too clever for a direct approach. Captain Wong watches the drone feed with pure envy, noting that calling him a top-tier lead dog doesn't even do him justice. The boars haven't noticed Laifu yet, as he has calmed his breathing and is now climbing up the backside of the slope. By now, even the confused viewers understand his intent, while those who know the craft appreciate the sheer effort involved. Old Ba excitedly tells Captain Wong to get ready, and at that moment, Laifu reaches the crest of the hill. After pinpointing the boar's location by scent, he charges straight down the mountain, startling the prey once again. The boar bolts, but as Laifu closes in, he realizes it's a massive male, a truly formidable specimen, to be honest. This big boar is surprisingly protective. Upon spotting Laifu, it turns around to face him, shielding the sow and piglets. A closer look reveals the boar has exceptionally long tusks. Taking it down will likely result in several injured dogs. If luck isn't on their side, it could be fatal, and Old Ba urgently shouts that this is a cannon, a dangerous beast. He calls for the dogs to be released immediately, and in an instant, both trucks open their doors at once. Over a dozen dogs scramble out, quickly forming a straight line with the lead dogs ahead and the heavy hitters following. They race along the paths between the fields, but Laifu doesn't wait for them to arrive before making his next move. Deep down, he wants to prevent the other dogs from getting hurt by this boar, whose back is arched with immense power. With exposed, upturned tusks and a weight exceeding 300 pounds, this is definitely not a creature to be trifled with. Knowing he must exhaust the beast's strength, Laifu bypasses the male and runs toward the piglets to draw it out. The boar sees Laifu targeting its piglets and, in a flash of rage, charges at him with enough force to shatter everything in its path. It snaps through corn stalks as Laifu accelerates to full speed. Now, he is chasing the piglets while the massive male chases him. However, he knows he can't lead the boar too far away, or the other dogs will exhaust themselves just trying to catch up. With that in mind, Laifu makes a sharp U-turn to lead the boar back, but these wild animals are clever about conserving their energy. Seeing that the piglets are safe and the intruder is retreating, the boar actually stops the chase entirely. A sensible move, really. But since the boar won't chase, Laifu returns to taunt it again. Old Ba realizes now that the dog is intentionally draining the beast's stamina. Our clever dog takes advantage of the open ground, using the wide space to constantly circle around and nip at the boar's rear. This forces the boar to spin in circles until it finally loses its temper, turning to chase Laifu with renewed, relentless aggression. Yet the boar is intelligent. After chasing for a while and realizing how elusive Laifu is, it decides to give up the pursuit once more. It turns to flee toward the back, but Laifu has no intention of letting it escape. A second later, he lunges forward again. He takes a quick bite at the boar's backside, and when the startled beast turns to attack, Laifu has already let go and vanished. He continues this cycle of baiting. Although the boar is powerful, its massive frame and high-intensity bursts are draining its energy rapidly. Every time it maneuvers with Laifu, it has to use full acceleration, which is exactly what our protagonist wants. By now, the great boar is panting heavily with saliva dripping from its mouth, though we see Laifu is also working hard to keep cool. He sticks his tongue out to dissipate the heat, looking every bit the professional. His agility in this hunt is truly something to behold. Remarkably, he hasn't been hit a single time, and just then, the main pack led by the other dogs finally arrives on the scene. The lead dogs begin barking to signal their teammates the moment they spot the boar, and we can see the beast is starting to panic. It tries to bolt again, but this time Laifu doesn't move in for a bite. To be honest, this boar is simply too large to handle alone. He must wait for the heavy hitters to arrive, as they wear armor to tank the damage. Fortunately, today's lead dogs are all seasoned pros. They aren't being reckless, choosing instead to harass the boar from a safe distance as the chase continues for several dozen yards. The massive boar realizes it can't shake them off, so it turns to confront the dogs, only to find itself surrounded by 5 or 6 lead dogs. Their constant barking isn't just annoying. It keeps the beast's mind in a frantic state as they continuously test its resolve and intelligence. This forced the boar to move back and forth in a nervous circle, while the dogs themselves were anything but stationary. Some barked wildly in its face to draw its attention, others crept closer to intimidate it, and a few even began to circle around its rear. By keeping the beast in constant motion, they wore it down. Old Ba, seeing this, shouted excitedly that the lead dogs had finally arrived. He urged them to keep it pinned and not let it escape, because the struggle right before the heavy hitters arrive is always the most intense. Just then, the fastest of the heavy hitters, Heihu and Ling Taoking, were the first to reach the scene to join the fray. Now, Ling Taoking had an old leg injury. Though it had healed, the leg was perhaps a bit shorter now, or maybe the joint was just stiff. This caused him to run with a messy, uneven gait. As Brother Bing puts it, he looks a bit lopsided, but he's still incredibly fast. Despite his limp, he was the second to arrive. At that moment, Heihu suddenly lunged in for a testing bite, but the boar was ready. With a powerful toss of its head, the boar knocked Heihu aside and tried to flee again, but Laifu accelerated instantly to give chase. He opened his jaws and clamped down hard on the boar's hind leg. The beast whipped around to attack him, but this time, our dog held on. He refused to let go, and unexpectedly, the centrifugal force of the boar's sudden turn actually lifted Laifu's 4 legs right off the ground. He was swung through the air, which meant the boar couldn't find him when it turned its head, even though its legs still stung fiercely. The beast spun the other way, but Laifu remained dangling behind it, knowing that as long as he didn't let go, the boar couldn't bite him. We have to admit, this boar is clever. Realizing it couldn't shake him off, it actually tried to sit down directly on top of him. To be honest, Laifu wasn't prepared for this move at all, as he had never seen a boar use its weight as a weapon like this before. His head was actually pinned for a moment, so he quickly released his grip to pull himself out from under the boar's backside. This undignified treatment clearly annoyed our protagonist, but even in his anger, he was smart enough not to challenge those tusks directly. However, that brief delay was all the time needed for several more heavy hitters to finally close in on the target. They charged in, and we see Ling Taoking immediately latch onto one of the ears, followed by our protagonist circling around. While Ling Taoking held on, one of Captain Zhang's heavy hitters grabbed the other ear, and then he went for the boar's nose. In an instant, the massive boar began thrashing its head in pain, but with 2 dogs pulling, it had no room to use its tusks. The power of those tusks was greatly reduced, especially since he also had a firm grip on its nose. The beast was now helpless. A second later, over a dozen dogs swarmed the beast. Those who arrived late couldn't even find a spot to get a bite in. On the other side, Old Ba watched the scene and shouted with pure excitement, "Look at Laifu!" He was impressed that Laifu could pin the hind leg alone to stop the boar, and then immediately move to the nose to intimidate it. He urged Brother Bing to finish the job, celebrating that they had taken down the big one, and asked the viewers to praise Laifu. By now, the audience was thrilled, filling the screen with praise for Laifu as gift effects flashed continuously. It was quite a show. It was certainly satisfying, but Brother Bing's first concern was whether any dogs were hurt, so he began checking those with blood on them. As it turned out, our protagonist was the first one he checked. His face was covered in blood, though it all belonged to the boar. Brother Bing carefully inspected him, even checking his teeth, before moving on to examine the rest of the pack. Old Ba confirmed that no dogs were injured, then wondered where the other boars had gone, suggesting they call the dogs back. Since the other pigs had fled far away, they decided to use the truck to chase them, calling for someone to help drag the boar. The 2 of them couldn't move it alone, but fortunately, the stout Captain Wang arrived on the scene just in time. Despite being completely out of breath, he surprisingly had the strength to actually move the heavy beast alongside Brother Bing. He might have been panting, but it didn't stop him from working or from showering our Laifu with well-deserved praise. He remarked on how incredible the dog was, noting his tactical mind and his perfect sense of timing for when to chase or stop. Brother Bing replied with immense pride, noting that if Laifu hadn't come home with him, he would have thrived on the mountain alone. He believed the dog could handle any boar, large or small, with ease, and meanwhile, the hunt was far from over. Old Ba had already mapped out the route, noting that their current position was about 200 meters from the nearest release point. 200 meters might seem like a trek, but Brother Bing didn't mind at all, insisting they proceed regardless of the distance. He decided they would release the whole pack this time, as Laifu shouldn't have to do everything alone. Soon, the truck moved into position. While the handlers took a few steps forward, the others released the dogs, who burst from the back of the truck like tigers from a cage. We see the same group of boars from before, 3 sows leading 6 or 7 smaller piglets through the brush. This time, our protagonist didn't rush to intercept them, choosing instead to follow the lead dog at a leisurely pace. It wasn't that he was tired, but honestly, these pigs didn't offer much of a challenge since sows lack the combat power of a tusker. A male of the same size is far more aggressive and prone to violent counterattacks, whereas a sow tends to panic the moment she sees a dog. Sure enough, with the dogs still dozens of meters away, the sows abandoned their piglets and bolted, a cold move, even for a pig. However, the pack fell into chaos once they caught up, with several dogs, including the bait dog Shonda, breaking off to chase the piglets. Only our protagonist and one of Captain Zhang's dogs stayed on the main target, though they soon split up as well. He wanted to secure another catch for the team, so following the guidance of his scent, he shifted into full acceleration. The boar ahead was tearing through the cornfield. In a straight line, it stood no chance against him, but it did have a head start. It took several hundred meters of intense sprinting before he finally managed to close the gap and catch up to the beast. After showering him with well-deserved praise for being such a good dog, the work continued. Brother Bing quickly pulled out his gear to secure the situation. He used the rope to tie up the boar, and the moment our protagonist saw it was secure, he bolted off to support Captain Zhang's lead dog. During the time it took for Brother Bing to finish, the other boar and dog had already wrestled their way several hundred meters further. They had already reached the terraced fields. It was night, but all that running was starting to take a toll on his stamina. He began to feel the heat, panting with his tongue out to cool down as he ran, though the distance remained a challenge. Compared to humans, who can sweat from their entire skin, a dog's cooling system is quite small. Meanwhile, Old Ba watched the action unfold. Seeing our protagonist charge out once more, Old Ba began passionately narrating for the audience, shouting that Lai Fu was simply incredible. He was rushing back to the battlefield for his third pig of the night. Once he sets his sights on a target, there is no escape. Old Ba claimed he had no words left except to say how amazing Lai Fu was, urging everyone to give the dog a like. He took a moment to thank Brother Dong for the carnival gift, noting that he had been incredibly generous throughout the evening. He told Brother Dong to name any request, but before the donor could even respond, something caught everyone's eye on the screen. We see the thermal image of our protagonist glowing with startling clarity, moving like a bolt of lightning straight toward the fight. By this point, however, he was starting to feel the fatigue, having fought 3 consecutive battles without a real break. He had spent 20 minutes wrestling a boar alone before running several kilometers. Thus, as he neared the scene, he made a choice. He slowed his pace to recover some strength, which caused Old Ba to worry that the exhaustion was finally catching up to him. Old Ba muttered that Lai Fu was slowing down and shouldn't push himself too hard. Yet when the dog finally reached the battlefield, he didn't launch an immediate attack, but instead stretched his limbs and lay down on the ground. As long as the boar didn't run, he wouldn't move. This sent Old Ba into another fit of excitement, explaining to the viewers that Lai Fu was simply taking a well-earned rest. To be honest, it was the first time he had ever seen a dog bold enough to lie down in the middle of a hunt. He picked up the radio and told Brother Bing that Lai Fu was in position, urging him to bring the rest of the pack over quickly. Brother Bing signaled his receipt, but by now the boar was also exhausted, standing its ground in a tense standoff with the lead dog. The lead dog had been barking for ages with no backup in sight and was nearly ready to give up on the pursuit. However, our protagonist's arrival renewed his confidence, and he continued to eye the boar while calling out for his teammates. After resting for about 20 minutes, Lai Fu finally stood up and gave another long stretch. The hero was back on his feet. We wait to see his next move, and a second later, he lunges from the side to deliver a sharp bite that sends the boar into a panic. The boar tried to bolt in the opposite direction, and while our protagonist was content to follow at a leisurely pace, the other lead dog grew impatient. The dog lunged forward and bit the boar's hindquarters, but by now, the beast was completely terrified and had lost any will to fight back. Seeing the boar stop after the bite, Lai Fu moved in once more to keep the pressure on, though he had a much more clever plan in mind. This time, he intentionally blocked the other lead dog, forcing a bit of distance so the boar would have room to run further toward the rest of the pack. By leading the prey closer to the other dogs, he was making the hunt easier for everyone, a move that left Old Ba absolutely stunned once again. Old Ba shouted to the viewers, asking if they saw that. Lai Fu was literally herding the pig back toward them like a professional. This particular boar was roughly the same size as the one Lai Fu had handled alone earlier, meaning he certainly could have finished this himself. But at this stage, he had no desire to waste unnecessary energy. After all, how do you compete with a dog that understands advanced tactics? The audience was fully swept up in the excitement, jokingly suggesting the dog should be sent to college, while Brother Dong went completely overboard with his gifts. He sent 10 massive fake phone gifts in a row, ignoring Old Ba's pleas to stop, while on the other side, Lai Fu heard the rest of the pack approaching. He didn't even need to drive the boar anymore, simply letting it stand there until the younger dogs, Yo Guai and Huang Maiwa, finally arrived on the scene. In the blink of an eye, Lai Fu lunged forward and clamped his jaws onto the boar's ear, knowing exactly how to signal the start of the final takedown. As soon as the others saw him strike, they followed his lead immediately, swarming the target with renewed energy. The boar, already exhausted from the long pursuit, had no strength left to resist the combined force of the pack. Less than a minute later, once the heavy hitters arrived to secure the catch, Laifu simply let go and stepped aside to take a well-deserved rest. Old Ba cheered that it was a perfect catch, 3 boars down already, and he couldn't stop praising Laifu for his incredible performance. It turned out the dogs brought along today were all elite hunters, as they finished the job before Brother Bing could even reach the spot. Half an hour later, Old Ba announced that they had found more targets, spotting 2 more boars nearby in what seemed like an endless supply. It was becoming clear just how much the boar population had exploded. The team gathered to study the map and plan their next route. There was a dense forest near the boars' location, and Laifu seemed to realize that driving them into the trees would make the chase much harder for the pack. And we see that these 2 boars are certainly not small. Before long, Brother Bing is the first to suggest that they should lead with Laifu. He believes Laifu needs to pin one down first, an idea that Old Ba agrees with immediately as they finalize their strategy. Old Ba remarks that Laifu likely dislikes the dense forest and probably won't drive the pigs back toward it, which, to be honest, is a fair assumption. A moment later, our protagonist gets out of the car alone, and as he does, Old Ba tells the livestream viewers to watch closely. He announces that Laifu's signature move is coming, a wide flanking maneuver to intercept the boars, while our protagonist follows a clear path. After pushing through the thicket, he chases the boars along the edge of the woods, but the 2 beasts seem surprisingly bold after spotting him. They actually hesitate for a second before finally bolting, prompting Old Ba to shout for Brother Bing to release the rest of the dogs. With Laifu already in position, both trucks release their packs at once, and in an instant, the dogs are scrambling to get into the action. The handlers follow close behind, while our protagonist continues the pursuit across the terraced fields, keeping the pressure on the prey. Strangely enough, after a short chase, the boars simply stop against a high terrace ridge. He wonders what they could possibly be waiting for. The rest of the pack arrives shortly after, but the ridge is far too high for them to climb, leaving them searching desperately for a way up. Among them is Dahan, a dog with a notoriously short temper who begins howling in frustration because he can't reach the target. However, Yogwai uses his long legs and light frame to leap onto the ridge in a single bound, joining our protagonist to keep watch. Brother Bing finally catches up and finds a lower section of the ridge, where he begins manually hoisting and pushing the dogs up one by one. Once the full pack reaches the top, they quickly surround the boars, though they remain cautious as they begin the final confrontation. They constantly shift positions, darting in and out to intimidate the boars, and Old Ba prepares to step in and finish the job. But then, something unexpected happens. Lala suddenly weaves through the pack and lunges forward with surprising aggression. She clamps her jaws onto a boar's ear with a death grip that she refuses to let go of, no matter how much the beast struggles. The boar thrashes its head in pain, lifting Lala's front legs off the ground before making a desperate, explosive attempt to flee. The boar leaps off the ridge, but the other dogs hesitate at the edge, clearly intimidated by the height of the drop. After hitting the ground, Lala quickly releases her grip, but before she can even stand, the boar charges directly at her. With a low head and a powerful upward thrust, the beast catches Lala off guard, throwing her into the air with immense force. The boar has clearly lost its temper. Instead of fleeing, it continues its relentless assault on Lala, much to our concern. Old Ba watches helplessly from above, shouting in a panic that the dog is being mauled, which, to be honest, is a terrifying sight. While the other dogs hesitate at the ridge, our protagonist realizes he can make the jump, leaping down just as Lala faces a second attack. He sprints across the gap and delivers a fierce, decisive strike to the boar's flank to draw its attention away from the dog. The boar lets out a sharp cry of pain and abandons Lala to turn its aggression toward him, a dangerous shift in focus, indeed. He tries to circle the beast to stay out of reach, but the boar lunges with such violence that it tears its own flesh against his grip. The pain is so intense that the boar freezes in place, momentarily stunned, just as Old Ba lowers the drone to get a better look. The drone's lights reveal that Lala is the one who was hit. Old Ba immediately grabs his radio and calls out to Brother Bing. He warns that Lala is badly injured and leaking oil, while a few of the braver dogs finally risk the jump to join the fray. Even with reinforcements, the dogs lack the weight to pin the beast, but Brother Bing arrives at that exact moment. He slides down the steep embankment, discards his sheath, and rushes toward the boar with a short blade in hand. Our protagonist is momentarily baffled, wondering if Brother Bing actually intends to duel the massive boar one-on-one with a knife. Seeing Brother Bing's grim determination, he quickly moves in to bite and secure one of the boar's ears to hold it steady. It is a precarious position. The boar's tusks are inches from his neck, and he isn't wearing any protective armor today. In the next second, Brother Bing approaches from the rear and actually climbs onto the boar's back, gripping it firmly. With practiced speed, he drives the blade under the boar's ribs. The beast screams and thrashes, trying to strike back at him. Our protagonist keeps his hold until Brother Bing taps him on the head, signaling him to let go and move back. Brother Bing jumps clear as the boar collapses. Having performed this grim task 1,000 times, his hands remain perfectly steady. His technique is incredibly precise, usually driving the blade through the heart and lungs in a single stroke. Once he strikes, the boar has no chance of getting far. Sure enough, after he lets go, the beast collapses just a few meters away. Brother Bing first checks our protagonist to ensure he isn't bleeding before rushing over to tend to poor Lala. We follow close behind, as Lala is such a well-behaved and quiet dog that everyone has grown quite fond of her. After a quick inspection, Brother Bing breathes a sigh of relief. Her belly was sliced open, but the internal organs are intact. There is hope yet, and he immediately pins Lala down gently to begin using a surgical stapler on the wound. He works quickly, sealing the injury like a stapler would, and Lala remains remarkably calm throughout the entire process. She doesn't struggle at all, and just then, Captain Wong and the others arrive to lend a helping hand to the group. Everyone agrees that Lai Fu was incredibly brave. If he hadn't jumped down to save his teammate, Lala might not have survived. The viewers are equally impressed, noting that Lai Fu is not only intelligent but possesses a truly kind heart as well. By holding the boar's ear at the end, he was actually protecting Brother Bing, though the man is currently too worried to notice. Brother Bing quickly says goodbye to the livestream audience, explaining that the broadcast must end so they can save Lala. They use their jackets as a makeshift stretcher to carry her, carefully placing the injured dog onto the car's back seat. Our protagonist gives up his usual spot for Lala and sits on the floor instead, reflecting on how dangerous hunting can be. Although Lala was wearing armor, it was only a half vest that unfortunately left her lower abdomen completely exposed. It was a stroke of terrible luck that the boar's tusk found that exact weak spot, but her breathing remains steady for now. Once they arrive home, the team carries Lala inside to properly restitch the wound and begin her medical treatment. They administer anti-inflammatory shots, knowing that as long as there is no infection, she should recover perfectly fine. Our protagonist watches over her with clear concern, even bringing her a meat sausage that she is currently too weak to eat. Brother Bing pats his head, remarking to the others that Lai Fu is so smart he almost seems human in his empathy. Brother Bing explains that while Lai Fu can handle smaller sows, he usually avoids boars with tusks because they are far too dangerous. He realizes Lai Fu only jumped in today because he sensed the danger to his owner, a thought that makes our protagonist look up with a knowing gaze. Deep down, Lai Fu thinks it's about time the man understood, though Brother Bing was quite reckless to rush in before the dogs had full control. After finishing his own meal, Lai Fu settles down next to Lala to keep watch, ready to bark for help if her condition changes during the night. When morning comes, Lala is still weak, refusing to eat or move, so our clever protagonist finds a dog bowl to help her out. He grabs a bag of milk, bites it open, and pushes it toward her. To a dog's nose, the scent of milk and sausage is usually irresistible. Lala manages to lift her head and take just 2 small sips, but the effort clearly drains her. It seems she will need a long time to recover. Just then, Brother Bing's father calls out, shouting that the private messages on social media are exploding with concern for the injured dog. The fans are desperate for an update on Lala, so he suggests that Brother Bing start a live stream to answer their questions. The moment Brother Bing checks his phone, he is stunned to find hundreds of messages waiting for him, a rare level of attention, to be sure. He notices that most of the profiles belong to women, a sudden popularity he's never experienced back when 10 messages were considered a lot. Agreeing that an explanation is needed, he brings our protagonist back into the frame and starts the broadcast with a warm greeting. He introduces himself as the farmer who faced the boar yesterday, jokingly referring to his hunting spear as a mere toothpick. Since so many fans are asking about the injured dog, he decides to provide a single update to reassure everyone watching. He tells them not to worry, as the wound has been treated and Lala just needs a bit more time before she is back on her feet. The viewers in the chat breathe a collective sigh of relief, but before the stream can even finish, Captain Wong and his team prepare to depart. Brother Bing steps outside to see them off, and as they say their goodbyes, Captain Wong walks over to give our protagonist a friendly pat. He jokingly asks if Lai Fu still wants a wife, promising to bring one over in a few days, a comment that earns him a very specific look. Lai Fu rolls his eyes and lets out a bark that sounds suspiciously like an insult, making Captain Wong laugh as the team finally drives away. After Brother Bing tidies up the yard, the father drops a sudden bit of news during dinner. Tomorrow, someone is coming to the kennel to fight. The next day, a guest arrives exactly as expected, and we see him immediately step forward to greet the father with a warm handshake and a hug. Brother Bing, feeling a bit shy, greets him as Brother Dong, but Dong simply tells him they can catch up properly in a little while. He shouts excitedly for Lai Fu, and before we know it, the chubby young man is rushing straight toward our protagonist with open arms. He grabs Lai Fu's head and gives him a big kiss, exclaiming just how incredibly rare and precious a dog like him truly is. He introduces himself as Brother Dong, and seeing how much the man adores him, Lai Fu decides it's only fair to show him some respect. Our clever protagonist sticks out his tongue with a smile and offers a paw to shake, which delights Dong, who calls him a good boy. Dong has brought a mountain of gifts, delicious treats, toys, a dog bed, a bathtub, and even a hairdryer, and spends a long time bonding with him. After a while, Brother Dong goes to check on Lala's recovery before finally sitting down to talk with Brother Bing and his father. He eagerly asks if there is any work he can help with, but the father insists that as a guest, he shouldn't be doing chores. When asked if he'd prefer a hotel or staying at the kennel, Dong chooses the kennel without hesitation, which is quite a commitment, really. He explains that while he's here to visit, he plans on staying for a long time, so the father offers to let him share his room. By evening, Brother Bing begins preparing the dog's dinner with Dong helping by his side, and since they have a guest, the menu is special. Everyone gets an upgrade today as beef is chopped into small pieces and boiled together with cornmeal for a hearty feast. The dogs, who have rarely tasted beef, devour the meal with such ferocity that the scene quickly turns into a chaotic feeding frenzy. They begin fighting over positions and food, and things get so heated that even Bai Piaoliang starts a scrap with a medium-sized dog. Eventually, our protagonist has to step in to restore order, and once dinner is over, Brother Dong brings out a large basin. He fills it with warm water to give Laifu a bath. Thinking that being pampered sounds lovely, Laifu sits down obediently in the tub. Watching the dog tilt his head back in pure bliss, Brother Bing can't help but marvel at the sight, though he starts to say something. He stops himself, thinking that normally a mixed-breed dog wouldn't receive this much affection, but Brother Dong strongly disagrees. He argues that since Laifu is so incredibly smart, it's impossible not to love him, and he continues carefully washing him. Brother Dong heads back to the kennel area, showing no signs of being bothered by the mess as he works hard to prove his usefulness. Old Ba, however, still thinks he's just here for fun, so he decides to take him out to experience the reality of the hunt. He wants Dong to feel what it's like to climb mountains and track boars, hoping he might reconsider, but Dong is thrilled at the idea. Dong is incredibly excited to join Brother Bing as a fellow hunter, though Old Ba quickly offers a word of caution. He explains that the terrain here is full of ravines and difficult paths, suggesting Dong first follow the tracking team to adapt. Before long, Brother Bing and Old Ba head off to sleep, but Dong finds himself far too energized to rest. He spends the time feeding snacks to Laifu and Lala until evening, right up until the moment the pickup truck pulls in. Suddenly, every dog in the kennel stands up, barking and howling as if they're greeting a long-lost friend. The sight of the truck tells them it's time to head into the mountains to catch boars, and their excitement is palpable. While the other dogs jump for joy as their GPS trackers and armor are fitted, our protagonist reacts a bit differently. Laifu turns his head away to dodge the collar, making Brother Bing nervous that if he doesn't wear it, he might run off for good. Deep down, Laifu knows the tracker isn't to prevent him from getting lost, but to stop him from returning to his life as a wild dog. Still, if he refuses to wear it, there isn't much they can do, as catching a dog like him by force is nearly impossible. As they set out, Dong insists on driving. It turns out he's quite the off-road enthusiast, which explains his confidence behind the wheel. They arrive half an hour earlier than scheduled, and Old Ba immediately makes a call to the nearby villagers. A few locals emerge to provide information on the boar's general location, and one villager grips Old Ba's hand tightly. He explains that the boars have become incredibly bold, entering the village to steal livestock feed and causing chaos. It's a dangerous situation for the elderly and children, and he pleads with the team to help clear them out. Old Ba gives a firm nod and promises to take care of as many as possible before launching the drone into the sky. The drone flies toward the designated area, and it doesn't take long before they spot the boars in the woods outside the village. And so, our journey continues as Brother Dong drives toward the woods, following the route Old Ba points out, though the path ahead looks rather daunting. The forest is vast and thick, so they decide the best plan is to send Laifu in first to flush the boars out into the open. As he hops out of the truck, Brother Bing gives him a reassuring pat on the head, warning him to stay safe in the dense brush. Laifu enters the woods at a steady pace and quickly finds the trails the boars use, where the shrubs have been trampled flat by heavy hooves. He begins to bark, using his voice to intimidate the boars, who hear the commotion and start to shift through the trees with surprising calmness. We see the star of the team taking the stage now, our number 1 hunting dog, the formidable Laifu. Because Laifu is such a large dog, navigating the thickest parts of the forest is a challenge, but he handles it with practiced ease. Just watch how he maneuvers. Meanwhile, a few curious villagers have gathered nearby to watch the spectacle unfold from a distance. Deep down, Laifu is focused on shifting his position constantly, herding the boars along a straight line so they eventually run out of the cover. However, when a boar sounder is this large, especially with a big tusker leading them, their confidence remains quite high, making them harder to spook. They don't seem particularly panicked by his presence, and while some viewers on the livestream might be confused by all the running around, the true hunting enthusiasts and longtime fans absolutely love seeing this kind of tactical work in action. After half an hour of persistent herding, the boars finally emerge from the thicket, though several more patches of forest lie just ahead. Knowing they could easily disappear back into the brush, Brother Bing gives the command and shouts, "Release the dogs." In an instant, the pack charges toward the boar's location, and a few minutes later, Xiaodian is the first to burst through the trees. The moment Xiaotian spots the boars, he lets out a sharp bark, signaling the rest of the lead dogs to lock onto his position. The pack converges on Xiaotian's location, and soon, several more lead dogs arrive one after another to join the fray. Unexpectedly, the boars have formed a defensive line, the large ones in front and the small ones behind, leaving the dogs no opening to strike. The dogs continue to bay, inching closer to the boars until they are less than 2 meters away from the bristly formation. Sensing the immediate danger, the boars suddenly accelerate with a violent burst of speed, charging straight out of their defensive ranks. However, the boar is quite small and incredibly agile, twisting its body to evade the attack and dragging the lead dogs along as it bolts. The moment that boar breaks formation, Xiaotian and Jifeng are on it instantly, with Shitu moving in to secure a hold. In a flash, 3 or 4 lead dogs have successfully cornered the beast, and the rest of the pack joins in immediately. They manage to pin the boar down, and it lets out a series of desperate wails while struggling, though it is, after all, a powerful animal. Because these dogs lack the sheer jaw pressure of the heavier breeds, the boar manages to twist free after a brief struggle. Meanwhile, Laifu has circled behind the sounder, looking for a way to scatter them when he spots a lone boar breaking away. He loops around to intercept it, charging from the flank with the clear intention of taking the animal down himself. With one swift leap, he latches onto the boar's ear. It screams and tries to shake him off, but he clings tightly to its side. The boar can't reach him no matter how it thrashes, and since the first boar already escaped back to the herd, the other dogs are left without a target. Naturally, those 4 or 5 lead dogs pivot toward Laifu's position, and suddenly, 6 or 7 dogs have the boar completely immobilized. Old Ba is visibly thrilled by the coordination, shouting excitedly to Brother Bing about the pressure they're putting on the herd. He urges Brother Bing to move in quickly while Laifu keeps the rest of the boars intimidated and at bay. At that moment, the larger boars in the sounder begin to close in, moving as a unit to try and rescue their trapped companion. It's a surprising display of loyalty, really. Seeing this, Laifu releases his grip to let the other dogs hold the line while he circles to the rear. Since the piglets are at the back and their safety is the herd's top priority, Laifu realizes that threatening the young is the best distraction. Sure enough, the large boars immediately turn around to protect the piglets, abandoning their rescue mission to face this new threat. And so, Laifu single-handedly keeps the entire herd occupied just as Brother Bing finally bursts through the dense forest into the clearing. With the rest of the pack following close behind him, Brother Bing doesn't waste a single second and draws his short blade. He moves to finish the hunt while the rest of the herd watches from less than 5 meters away, seemingly helpless to intervene. However, the silly fellow Detang makes a bit of a tactical error. Instead of driving the herd away, he runs to bite the boar that's already been caught. On the other hand, we see Yao Tu Wang and Lung To Qing arriving at the scene, charging toward the herd without a moment's hesitation. The boars, already spooked by the cries of their fallen companion, don't dare stay put and immediately scatter in every direction. Yao Tu Wang manages to latch on for a moment, but the boar shakes him off with a violent toss of its head as the pack gives chase. Brother Bing quickly signals the larger dogs to follow, and Laifu, being the hunter he is, wasn't about to let this opportunity slip away. He is significantly faster than the others, and in the blink of an eye, he closes the 20-meter gap to intercept a fleeing boar. He immediately sinks his teeth into the animal's hind leg. It screams and tries to strike back, but Laifu remains perfectly composed. He simply pivots in the same direction the boar turns, staying safely out of reach until Yao Tu Wang and Lung To Qing finally catch up. Lung To Qing's technique is quite impressive to watch, as he approaches at full speed to execute a perfectly timed strike. He latches onto an ear with precision, though Yao Tu Wang's aim isn't quite as sharp, landing his first bite on the boar's snout instead. It takes him a second to adjust his grip to the ear, and soon enough, the rest of the lead dogs arrive to join the fray. While some help secure the catch, others continue the pursuit into the dense forest, where the terrain begins to complicate things for our friends. The thick brush causes the pack to lose their formation, with dogs scattering in every direction, though 2 of the heavier dogs manage to stay on track. Brother Bing arrives shortly after to finish the job, leaving Laifu with a deep sense of pride in his successful hunt. There is something truly commanding about the way the other dogs follow his lead, like a general leading his soldiers into the heat of battle. Knowing how much trouble these boars have caused the local villagers, he decides that one catch simply isn't enough for the day. He follows the trail back into the dense woods, even though this terrain clearly gives the boars the upper hand in terms of speed. Some of the boars, thinking themselves quite clever, decide to hide in the thickets rather than continue their frantic flight. However, hiding only works for so long, and the trailing Xiao Xiao Huatu ends up stumbling right into one of these concealed beasts. Now, Xiao Xiao Huatu isn't exactly known for his bravery, and he certainly isn't the type to face a boar on his own. Startled by the sudden encounter, the dog turns tail and runs, which, naturally, gives the boar the confidence to start a chase of its own. The boar chases directly behind Xiao Xiao Huatu, who is followed closely by the heavy-set Tiniu, even though the path ahead is incredibly narrow. Xiao Xiao Huatu manages to squeeze past Tiniu, causing the smaller dog to stumble just as he regains his footing. Suddenly, a boar charges right at him. Tiniu earned his name, Iron Cow, not because of his size, as he is barely larger than a puppy's head, but because of his spirit. When he encounters a boar, he becomes exceptionally brave, launching a charge against beasts several times his own size without a hint of hesitation. He meets the boar head-on, sinking his teeth into its neck, though the sheer force of the impact pushes Tiniu back several steps. The boar shakes its head violently to attack, while Xiao Xiao Huatu stands safely behind Tiniu, barking loudly to summon the rest of the team. Daxing, who had already run past, hears the cries and immediately turns back to block the boar's escape from behind. Watching the boar's rear swaying, Daxing bites down hard on a hind leg, causing the beast to let out a sharp, pained cry in the heat of battle. That moment of hesitation is all Tiniu needs. He finally secures a firm grip on the boar's ear, locking the animal in place. Old Ba shouts excitedly over the radio, telling Brother Bing that Tiniu has cornered the beast but took a few hits, urging him to check for injuries. Upon receiving the message, Brother Bing secures the third boar of the night and heads over to inspect Tiniu for any wounds. Old Ba asks worriedly if Tiniu is alright, and Brother Bing confirms that the dog's protective armor luckily blocked the worst of it. He only has 2 small scratches on his face from some stray branches. He's fine, Brother Bing says, just as another catch is made to the left. We see the lead dogs pinning down yet another small boar in the dense thicket, keeping the momentum of the hunt alive. As he weaves through the dark forest, Brother Bing mutters to himself that they certainly have their work cut out for them with dogs this fast. One has to admit, Brother Bing has incredible nerves to be chasing wild boars through the wilderness alone in the middle of the night. By this time, we return to the pickup truck where Old Ba, seeing the boars have scattered too far, picks up the walkie-talkie. He suggests to Brother Bing that it's time to call the dogs back, as continuing the pursuit any further would be nearly impossible. Hearing this, Brother Bing begins to whistle and call out, and soon the nearby dogs begin to emerge from the shadows to join him. Finally, Brother Bing addresses his livestream audience, announcing that the night's performance has come to an end and thanking them for watching. Our story continues as Brother Dong, Old Ba, and the local villagers all pitch in to help drag the boars back after the hunt. The villagers, full of gratitude, warmly insist that Captain Ba and the team shouldn't leave just yet. They invite them to stay the night and share a meal tomorrow, but Brother Bing anxiously replies that dinner will have to wait. He explains that they first need to find a missing dog, as one of their team has vanished. Specifically, Chihuahua is nowhere to be found. It seems Chihuahua chased a boar too far, and to make matters worse, her GPS tracker has lost its signal, which sends Old Ba into a panic. Old Ba immediately launches the drone to search, but even after draining 2 batteries, there is still no sign of her. Seeing that they are stuck, Laifu decides to take matters into his own paws and sets off alone, prompting Brother Bing to shout after him. He asks where Laifu is going, but the dog ignores him. He knows Chihuahua likely got separated while chasing a boar into the thickest part of the woods. With a clear sense of purpose, Laifu runs back into the dense forest, carefully sniffing each set of footprints to distinguish the scents. Brother Bing urges Old Ba to follow Laifu with the drone, fearing that if Chihuahua is already lost, they can't afford to lose him too. Despite his exhaustion, Brother Bing pushes himself to follow the dog, determined to see where this leads. Soon, the drone catches up and we see Laifu darting through the trees, his nose pressed firmly to the ground as he tracks the trail. Old Ba uses the drone's loudspeaker to call out, telling Laifu to come back, but the dog merely glances up and continues his mission. After a thorough search of the area, Laifu finally picks up Chihuahua's tracks and follows them right out of the dense forest. Observing this through the camera, Old Ba radios Brother Bing, wondering if Laifu is actually tracking Chihuahua toward the mountains. Brother Bing finds it hard to believe, doubting that even a dog as smart as Laifu would intentionally go looking for another dog. The drone follows as Laifu quickly crests a ridge, showing a level of focus that is truly remarkable for any animal. He doesn't stop to listen to the commands anymore, breaking into a steady trot along the trail, which makes Old Ba realize they have to keep up. After a quick word with the locals, they find a villager who knows the mountain paths to lead the way for their pursuit. Old Ba hops into the villager's truck, drone controller in hand, while telling Brother Bing to head back and wait for further news. Old Ba asks Brother Dong to drive the pickup over to meet them. While out in the forest, the tracks become very clear. We see 2 distinct scent trails left along the path, one belonging to the boar and the other to Chihuahua. Even after crossing 2 more hills, there is still no sign of her. The dog is truly persistent to have chased it this far. Suddenly, the footprints ahead become chaotic, and we notice many cornstalks have been trampled into the dirt. It is clear that Chihuahua cornered the boar here, but without backup, the beast eventually broke free and fled again. Analyzing the tracks, it seems Chihuahua lingered here for a while, but unable to find her way home, she began to wander aimlessly. Seeing the scene through the camera, Old Ba exclaims in surprise that Laifu is even smarter than they imagined. He realizes the dog is specifically searching for Chihuahua, and that this flattened corn is where the struggle took place. By now, Laifu has run at least another 4 or 5 kilometers, and finally, Chihuahua's scent becomes incredibly strong. Xiaohua catches his scent as well. Recognizing him, she begins running toward him of her own accord. A moment later, a flash of white fur appears ahead, and seeing Lai Fu, she happily bounds toward him with excitement. Old Ba immediately radios Brother Bing with the good news, hardly believing that it really is Xiaohua. Lai Fu has successfully found her, and the little dog is so thrilled that she begins nuzzling and licking him affectionately. She likely thinks Lai Fu was the one who was lost, and who could blame her, really, for just being a bit too focused on the hunt. Lai Fu looks up and barks at the drone, hoping Old Ba understands that he has no intention of walking all the way back. Old Ba tests the waters by flying the drone slowly back toward the village, hoping to lead both dogs home. As soon as the drone moves, Lai Fu follows, and Xiaohua, relieved to have a companion, stays close by his side. And so, the two dogs follow the drone across the hills for another kilometer until they finally reach the truck. Brother Bing excitedly pats Lai Fu's head, amazed that the dog not only noticed someone was missing, but actually went and found them. After praising Lai Fu, he turns to scold Xiaohua, calling her a little fool for chasing that boar so far away. He tells her that if she can't catch it, she should just come back, but Xiaohua doesn't quite understand Brother Bing's logic. She simply wags her tail with pure excitement. We know that over the years, Brother Bing and his team have lost more than one dog. It's one thing to lose a dog to a boar, but losing one to the wilderness is a lingering bitterness, especially when searching yields nothing. All one can do is hope they might wander home one day, and by the time this ordeal finally ends, the sun is already rising. Our group follows the locals into the village, where many residents have gathered, eager to see the team that protects their crops. They've come out for the spectacle, and one villager even offers a secure, enclosed yard where the dogs can finally be let down to rest. They even offer to feed them, but Old Ba, not wanting to be a burden, politely declines and only asks for some water. Lai Fu, however, is treated differently and follows the men inside, where the villagers praise him over their breakfast. One man remarks that he watched the whole thing, calling the dog incredible for how he herded the boar and held his ground. Finding the lost dog was the final straw. It seems a professional's dog really is on another level entirely. Brother Bing looks quite proud to be on the receiving end of such praise, while Lai Fu simply wanders the room with his bowl in his mouth. Seeing the empty bowl, the generous host waves a hand and drops 2 lamb ribs into it, a well-deserved reward, to be honest. After the lively meal, the group returns to the kennel, too exhausted to even wash up before collapsing into a deep sleep. But the peace doesn't last long. Soon, the sound of a car pulls Brother Bing from his dreams to open the gate. It's Captain Chen from another nearby protection team, who enters the yard immediately asking where Lai Fu is. It seems Lai Fu has no choice but to come out and greet his guest. Such is the price of becoming famous in the hunting community. Over the next few days, teams from all over the region drop by to catch a glimpse of our star dog. Almost everyone asks about breeding, but Brother Bing refuses them all, knowing by now that Lai Fu has very high standards for a mate. Captain Qian isn't offended by the rejection and instead suggests bringing his dogs over just to play together sometime. After seeing the captain off, Lai Fu goes to check on Lala, who is finally starting to look like her old self again. We see Lala wagging her tail at the sight of us, so I bring her some milk and sausages, though her appetite is still small. She is eating a bit better than yesterday, but she's still quite thin. Brother Bing says injured dogs always lose weight, but it's no matter. He assures us she'll fatten up quickly once she's healed, but just then, Brother Dong rushes into the room, calling for Brother Bing. He tells him to check the area under Xiaotian and Hanshan's cages, as something seems wrong. Brother Bing suspects a sickness is brewing. He hurries over, and we follow him, only to find a very concerning sight beneath the cages in the enclosure. There is a distinct patch of brown urine on the floor, so Brother Bing quickly opens the cage to check Xiaotian and Hanshan's gums. Looking at the pale color, it's clear Xiaotian is the sick one, which is strange, as he seemed perfectly fine only yesterday. Brother Bing immediately pulls out his phone to make a video call, and as soon as it connects, he shouts, "Oldly." He asks Oldly to check if Xiaotian has babesiosis, pointing the camera at the stained floor and then at the dog's pale gums. As an experienced veteran in raising dogs, Oldly performs a remote diagnosis after examining the symptoms through the screen. He explains that this isn't babesiosis, but hemotropic mycoplasma, a blood parasite far more dangerous than the former. Judging by the gums in the video, he tells Brother Bing to take the dog's temperature immediately to be certain. If he has a fever, the diagnosis is confirmed. Brother Bing rushes to find a thermometer to check the dog's vitals. A few minutes later, the fever is confirmed, and Brother Bing anxiously asks if the disease is contagious to the other dogs. Oldly explains it doesn't spread directly between dogs, but rather through the bites of insects like mosquitoes and ticks. If a tick bites Xiaotian and then moves to another dog, it will spread. He warns them not to try treating it there. He tells them there are no good clinics in their current area and insists that they send the dogs to him immediately. Brother Bing hangs up and calls Old Ba back. After seeing the dog, Old Ba decides to send Hans Han along with Xiaotian, just in case. He goes to find crates and a transport vehicle, while Brother Bing carefully inspects every other dog in the team. Fortunately, the others show no symptoms for now, though the idea of an insect-borne disease has everyone on edge. Terrified, we see the others quickly backing away from Xiaotian. It's not that they dislike him, but no one wants to get sick. After all, animal illnesses are far more dangerous than human ones, as they can't simply tell us where it hurts. A little later, Old Ba manages to find a transport vehicle, but it won't depart until tomorrow. Brother Bing, naturally worried, calls Old Li again. He asks if Xiaotian will be alright on the road, since even express transport will take 3 days to reach Old Li's clinic. Old Li advises him to buy 2 specific medications and give Xiaotian an injection first, then treat the rest of the pack for parasites. He then asks if that's Lai Fu standing nearby, noting that the dog doesn't look quite right either. To be honest, that gave everyone a scare. Brother Bing tells him to get lost, joking that Lai Fu is perfectly fine and he knows exactly what kind of mischief Old Li is up to. With Old Li providing remote guidance, Old Ba and Brother Bing head out to buy the medicine. It was going to be a long night. By the time they return, give Xiaotian his shot, and finish deworming all the other dogs. It is already the middle of the night. The 3 men haven't even had dinner yet, huddled together at midnight over bowls of instant noodles. It's a rather pitiful sight, really. Lai Fu even offers up some of his own food, prompting Brother Dong to laugh and ask who could possibly not love a dog like this. He notes that the dog saw how poorly they were eating and was willing to share. Old Ba looks at Lai Fu and agrees wholeheartedly. He says that Lai Fu shouldn't be treated as just a dog, but as a child. Early the next morning, Old Ba gives Hans some water. After a bit of food, Hans is loaded into a crate and taken away. When Old Ba returns, he brings back Lai Fu's new armor. This custom suit was ordered a few days ago, made from high-strength, puncture-resistant material to keep the dog safe during hunts. It features a camouflage pattern and a perfect tailored fit. Old Ba and Brother Bing step in to help Lai Fu try on the new gear. Once the armor is buckled, Lai Fu heads inside to check himself in the mirror. He looks quite handsome and imposing, if we do say so ourselves. It was already difficult for a wild boar to injure him, but now it will be nearly impossible, making the hunt much safer. That evening at feeding time, Brother Bing opens the cages, but the dogs are so impatient that they immediately lunged at him. A whole bag of chicken is spilled onto the ground, and in an instant, the dogs are all over it, driven by their wild instincts. We see that some of the dogs, having snatched their chicken, immediately retreat into their crates or kennels to eat in peace, fearing the others might steal it. Even the heavy hitters like Datong and Ling Taoking, whom the others wouldn't dare challenge, prefer not to be disturbed while they are enjoying their meal. When the second bag of chicken is tossed out, some dogs stay right there to eat, which naturally leads to a bit of a scuffle over the spoils. Da Mao, Xiaowatuatu, and Da Huang all grab the same chicken at once, and none of them are willing to let go for even a second. They tear the bird apart, while Zhong Tuo, who finished his portion first, comes back out to see if he can claim someone else's share. Datong also finishes early and begins to prowl around. Seeing that Xiaowatuatu hasn't finished yet, he decides to make a move. He approaches Xiaowatuatu with a low, threatening growl. Being the timid sort, Xiaowatuatu immediately abandons his half-eaten meal and backs away. He stands to the side, looking quite dejected. Lai Fu, watching this, decides he isn't about to let this kind of bullying stand on his watch. He leaps down from his kennel and confronts Datong with a growl of his own, but Datong, it seems, has quite a temper himself. Datong actually drops the chicken to growl back, but Lai Fu isn't backing down. He knows the king of this yard must be established right now. In the next second, Lai Fu lunges and snaps his jaws around Datong's neck, though he only catches a loose fold of skin in the process. Worried that Datong might try to snap at his front legs, Lai Fu chooses to let go, but Datong isn't finished with this fight just yet. The moment he breaks free, Datong lunges forward with a fierce bite, but Lai Fu skillfully shifts his weight and throws him to the ground. Datong ends up flat on his back, and Lai Fu immediately pins him by the neck. Brother Bing, watching this, is genuinely startled by the intensity. He is terrified that Lai Fu might actually kill Datong, but Lai Fu quickly lets go, and Datong scurries away with his tail between his legs. Brother Bing doesn't chase him, wondering why on earth the two were fighting, only to realize Datong was trying to steal Xiaowatuatu's food. It seems Lai Fu was stepping in as a protector. He is clearly asserting himself as the alpha of the pack. To be honest, it was bound to happen. In the wild, canine groups always have a leader who directs the hunt, defends the territory, and decides the hierarchy of who eats first. Without the leader's permission, even the hungriest member of the pack must wait and watch while the alpha takes the first bite. However, the position of leader is earned through blood and strength, meaning this process inevitably involves a few fierce clashes with competitors. However, a hunting team cannot afford such casualties, so human intervention usually prevents a clear leader from emerging. But things are different here. Brother Bing feels that Lai Fu could actually be that leader because he is clever enough for the job. The gap in strength between him and the other dogs is so vast that he can subdue them instantly. Realizing this, Brother Bing calls out. He tells Lai Fu to come over, and since Lai Fu isn't afraid of him at all, he trots over without a care in the world. Before leaving, he even returns the stolen chicken to Xiaowatu. Bing tells him he can be the king as long as he doesn't kill the others. Laifu nods, jumps the fence, and returns with 2 eggs, only to find Datong already huddled in his kennel looking quite dejected. He enters the kennel and places the eggs before Datong, who doesn't seem to care at all that he was just beaten up. Datong swallows the eggs whole, terrified they might be taken back. Any other vengeful dog would have tried to fight back several times. Meanwhile, as Laoba is planning his evening, his phone suddenly begins to ring. It seems his plans are about to change. He tells his boss he's at home, sounding skeptical. He insists he isn't the right man for the job because he gets too nervous. Eventually, he agrees, promising that when the time comes for him to step up, he won't let the team down. He calls out to Brother Dong and Brother Bing, explaining that reporters from the county are coming to interview the hunting teams. It's uncertain which team they will visit, but everyone needs to be ready. The idea of a TV interview catches them off guard. They realize they might end up on television, which means they'll need better clothes than their current ragged outfits. Brother Bing tells them not to get too excited yet, but they agree to prepare as if the reporters are definitely coming. After discussing it for ages, word arrives that evening. The reporters are coming tomorrow for a filmed hunting expedition. They can hardly believe it's actually happening. Who would have thought they'd ever have a chance to be on TV in this lifetime? Bing tells them not to be nervous, as the editors can always cut out any mistakes they make during the interview. The main concern is whether they can actually catch anything. With Laifu on the team now, success seems almost guaranteed. However, Laifu decides to tease Brother Bing by shaking his head, leaving the poor man wondering if his star dog is losing focus. Brother Bing shouts that the dog has finally rebelled and jokingly lunges to grab his neck, leading to a playful scuffle between man and beast. Watching them, Laoba laughs, feeling his tension ease significantly as they all head to bed with a mix of nerves and excitement. The next day, they wait from dawn until the afternoon for news. Finally, 4 cars are seen driving into the valley. Our 3 hunters wait at the entrance to greet them, where a guide introduces reporter Chun from the Agricultural Channel. The guide introduces Laoba as the leader of the crop protection team, and everyone exchanges polite, if slightly stiff, greetings. Laoba forces an unnatural smile, so nervous that he completely forgets to introduce Brother Bing until the reporter prompts him. Bing tells them to just call him Xiao Bing, then introduces Brother Dong as the team's driver, keeping things moving smoothly. The reporter asks Bing to explain their hunting process, and he describes how they primarily rely on reports from local villagers. Wherever the wild boars are destroying crops, that is where they go, using thermal drones to locate the animals first. Then they drive close and release the hounds. Once the dogs have pinned a boar, the men move in for the final strike. Reporter Chun then asks to meet the dogs, and Laoba quickly gestures for Brother Bing to take over the introductions. As Bing leads the reporter into the enclosure, we see that Chun has already noticed Laifu, who is hard to miss given his size. Curious about the striking dog outside, the reporter asks if he is a hunter. Bing insists on saving that introduction for last. He repeats that he'll explain later, prompting Chun to assume the dog is special before asking about the breeds of the others. Bing explains that Yogwai is a pit bull greyhound mix, and Tai Dan is a Lyca Malinois cross, leaving the reporter wondering why they are all mixed breeds. When asked if purebreds are less effective, Bing explains it's not necessarily that. They simply prefer the versatility of these crosses. Finally, the time comes to introduce the star of the show, Laifu, the team's top general and most formidable asset. The reporter notes his impressive size, but Bing clarifies that Laifu's true strength lies not in his body, but in his mind. He is frighteningly intelligent, acting as both a lead dog and a heavy hitter who can stealthily track prey on his own. He possesses the charm of a pet and the lethality of a hunter. To prove it, Bing calls Laifu over to show off a bit. Laifu certainly doesn't disappoint, sitting up and bowing on command without a hint of hesitation. He even performs a difficult handstand. It's impressive, though many pets can follow basic commands like these. Bing tells him to keep it up for tonight, and soon they decide to head out early, driving the pickup to the gate. The dogs begin barking excitedly the moment they see the truck, with Dahang especially eager to get moving. They load up 19 dogs in total, nearly the whole squad, and skip the live stream today for the reporter's sake. Once they arrive and park, Laoba brings out the drone, which takes off with a sharp, mechanical hum. The camera crew can barely keep up with its speed as they spot a sounder of about a dozen wild boars. Bing notes the boars are 300 meters away and prepares to release the dogs on the gentle, friendly slopes. This time, Laifu doesn't need to scout ahead. Bing signals the direction, and Dong opens the hatch. In an instant, the dogs scramble out of the truck, but Laifu is already well ahead of the pack. The terrain is perfect today, and even his new custom-made armor doesn't seem to slow his pace at all. The other dogs quickly follow the lead of Bing and Laifu, and even Dahang manages to stay focused for once. The drone footage shows the pack stretching into a single, focused line as they accelerate toward their target. Laifu takes the lead, proving exactly why he is considered the team's top general and most formidable asset. It is remarkable how fast he runs despite the heavy armor. Meanwhile, Yogwai and Tai Dan maintain a steady pace. The other dogs haven't spotted the boars yet, but Laifu is already in a full-speed sprint, leading the way. With precise tracking, he closes the distance in under 2 minutes, getting within 50 meters of the sounder. Sensing danger, the boars huddle together, seemingly confident enough to stand their ground as the noise approaches. Even as Laifu arrives, the boars don't flee, yet none of them are brave enough to step out and challenge the pack. Protected by his armor and fueled by confidence, Laifu remains strategic, showing no sign of hesitation as he closes in. Without slowing down for a second, Laifu charges toward a boar on the perimeter and snaps his jaws shut, though it's only a quick bite. He lets go immediately, knowing the other boars will rush in to save their companion. To be honest, he's playing them like a fiddle. Sure enough, a nearby boar lunges at him, but Laifu has already pivoted, decelerating just enough to turn and lead it on a chase. The boar breaks formation to pursue him, but it barely covers 10 meters before the rest of our canine squad arrives on the scene. Seeing the massive pack, the boar tries to flee, but Laifu spins around with a burst of speed and closes the gap instantly. He sinks his teeth into the boar's hind leg, securing a firm grip. It's a brilliant move. He successfully baited the target away from the group. Laifu holds on tight as the boar squeals in pain, desperately calling out to its companions for a rescue that isn't coming. By now, the other dogs have caught up. Seeing Laifu's lead, they swarm in to finish the job in a blur of motion. Jifeng is the first to latch onto an ear, while Delizy arrives right behind him to grab the other side with practiced precision. The rest of the pack piles on, and the other boars, seeing their comrade overwhelmed by so many hounds, lose their nerve and bolt. The lead dogs, Yogwai, Dashwai, and Baishua, don't hesitate for a moment and immediately give chase to the retreating sounder. Bing is impressed. They've neutralized a boar in under 3 minutes. It seems the team is even more efficient than we expected today. The reporter is eager to see the action up close, urging Bing to hurry and secure the first catch so they can move on to the next. The lead dogs are closing in fast when one of the boars, sensing the threat at its heels, suddenly turns to confront them. It tries to attack Yogwai, but this pause separates it from the herd, allowing Dashwai and Yogwai to pin it down together. While Shuahua, Damao, and Baishue continue the pursuit, Bing arrives on the scene much faster than usual to assist his team. Wearing his new gear and careful not to get too messy, Bing uses a long spear to quickly and cleanly finish the encounter. While the others were busy securing that boar, Laifu had already let go to hunt the next one. He's always one step ahead, isn't he? After less than 100 meters, he spots the boar that Yogwai and Dashwai are holding, a beast weighing nearly 200 pounds. Laifu isn't about to let it slide. A second later, he streaks between his teammates like a gust of wind, ready to show them how it's done. Laifu's move to snatch the ear is incredibly stylish, and he deliberately mimics a fierce charge to latch on instantly. He uses the impact of the collision to bring himself to a halt. His 100-pound weight carries enough momentum to nearly knock the boar over. His sharp teeth pierce right through the boar's ear, and the beast lets out a series of agonizing squeals as it struggles to stay upright. The struggle is so intense that Yogwai hesitates to bite, but Dashwai doesn't miss a beat, clamping down firmly on the boar's hind leg. Bing is once again startled by the intensity, realizing it was Laifu who secured the hold. Yet, this small boar seems remarkably stubborn. Aside from a momentary sting, Laifu feels nothing as the boar tries to spin and create space, but he simply pivots along with it. As he circles, Dashwai continues to tear at the hind leg from behind. Once the rest of the pack arrives, Laifu immediately lets go. He rushes toward the next battlefield where Baishue is already barking. It seems they've cornered another one, their second of the day. The reporter and cameraman follow close behind, capturing the entire hunt on film. These hounds are proving to be impressively efficient. The secret to their success is Laifu. The boars had initially formed a defensive line that should have been hard to break, but he shattered it instantly. In fact, Laifu was the one who initiated the takedown on both of these boars. It's no wonder he's considered the star of the pack. Between his clever flanking and heavy hits, he's unstoppable. Meanwhile, he's already reached the position of a third boar, weighing about 100 pounds. Seeing that Baishue and Shuahua have this smaller pig pinned down securely, Laifu decides to simply leap over them and keep moving. He continues his pursuit of the fleeing sounder, which has now scattered in groups of 2 or 3, heading off in every direction. Taking a deep breath to catch their scent, he cross-references the smells with the tracks on the ground and is soon hot on the trail of 3 boars. He follows the footprints and the lingering scent trail with focused intensity, beginning a long-distance chase through the brush. On any normal day, this would be enough to call it quits, but with a reporter watching, he feels he must put on a truly spectacular show. Behind him, the boar guarded by Baishue and Shuahua has been successfully taken down, and Bing realizes this wave of the hunt is mostly over. The remaining boars have fled quite far, but as Bing begins calling the dogs back, he notices that Laifu is nowhere to be found. It turns out Laifu has chased them over 2 kilometers away. He's certainly committed to the job, isn't he? We see that the chase is far from over. Laifu is still pursuing 3 boars, even though they've already covered several kilometers of difficult terrain. The reporter wonders how they will follow since there are no roads, so Bing leads the rest of the dogs forward on foot. Meanwhile, Laifu gallops through the darkness, finally spotting the boar's location after cresting a steep mountain ridge. The boars have stopped on a hillside, and to avoid startling them, Laifu circles around to the bottom of the slope. He begins to slow his pace, moving stealthily and taking a long detour to stay out of their line of sight. After bypassing them by dozens of meters, he suddenly appears behind the three boars, knowing that Bing should be on his way. Instead of charging immediately, he hides in the tall grass to rest, a very sensible decision, all things considered. The boars, scattered and confused after the initial fright, stand aimlessly on the slope, neither eating nor moving. They remain alert to their surroundings for about 20 minutes until, finally, Bing and the other dogs draw near. Suddenly, Yoguai and Jifeng catch the scent and bolt forward. Their instincts are as sharp as ever. The other hounds follow the lead dogs immediately, prompting Bing to ask if they've finally located the target. Bing's father, who has managed to outpace the reporters, checks the tracker and gives an update on Laifu's position. He notes that Laifu is resting behind the boars, waiting patiently for the pack to arrive. A clever bit of teamwork, really. As Yoguai and the others approach, the boars spot them and turn to flee, completely unaware of what lies ahead. They run straight toward Laifu's hiding spot, and this time, he decides to meet them with a direct frontal assault. Bing's father shouts in excitement as Laifu engages them head-on, refusing to back down from the challenge. Facing the charge of three boars, he leaps at the lead one and instantly sinks his teeth into its ear. He holds on with a death grip. The boar tries to strike him with its head, but Laifu's armor absorbs the blows. Because they are standing on a very steep slope, the struggle causes both the dog and the boar to lose their footing and slide downward. Laifu uses the momentum to shift his weight to the downhill side, using gravity to make it even harder for the boar to escape. Things become even more difficult as the other two boars hesitate for a moment, wanting to save their companion, but they quickly make a decision. They turn and bolt back up the mountain, though even that might not save them, as in less than a minute, Yoguai has already arrived. He circles around to bite the boar's rear, and soon the main pack reaches the battlefield, immediately swarming the target to pin it down. We see that only 2 or 3 minutes have passed, and Laifu realizes there is still a chance to catch the others who fled. And so, he lets go of the first boar and resumes the chase, just as the remaining 2 boars disappear over the crest of the hill. He catches their scent and scans the terrain, deciding not to climb directly over the peak, but rather to take a different path. He runs along the slope to bypass the summit. The distance is longer, but it saves his energy, a very tactical choice, to be honest. Once he clears the ridge, he accelerates to full speed, but it seems the remaining boars are completely terrified and aren't slowing down. Even with no dogs directly behind them, they continue to sprint at full tilt, leading Laifu to decide to give up on these 2. After all, continuing would mean a grueling long-distance pursuit, and while he could certainly keep up, the same can't be said for everyone. Poor Bing would be the one to suffer, having to trek several more kilometers, and besides, there are always more boars in the forest. There is no need to overexert themselves when tonight's results are already impressive enough. Even Bing's father is starting to worry. He wonders if Bing has the stamina to keep going if Laifu continues the hunt, but the drone soon spots the dog slowing down. Seeing Laifu stop, the father praises his intelligence, noting that ending the chase now is absolutely the right call. The boars have gone too far to be worth the effort, and as Laifu leisurely trots back, he finds the rest of the pack still busy. The dogs are still surrounding and biting the captured boar, while Bing has yet to catch up to the scene of the struggle. Young Damao, still an apprentice and very excited by the catch, can't find a spot to grab hold, so he just nips here and there to join the fun. Over the radio, the instruction comes to finish the job and stop there for the day, as the other pigs have long since vanished. Bing finally arrives, stumbling through the brush with his spear, and finds an opening to finish the hunt once and for all. Breathing heavily, Bing waves Laifu over and praises him, telling him he's a good dog and that they've all done a magnificent job. They've certainly made him proud today. Bing pats the dogs and tells them to let go, while reporter Chun and the cameraman finally arrive. Though the trek was difficult and exhausting, they managed to keep up, and Chun immediately offers an apology for ever doubting Laifu's skills. She admits she underestimated him at first, then asks Bing if Laifu was the one who initiated the attack on all 3 boars. Bing explains that for the third one, Laifu saw the size and decided to leave it to the others so he could keep chasing this one. With the sun beginning to peek through, Chin asks if the hunt is over for the day, and Bing confirms that they are finished. He checks on the hounds to see if there are any injuries, but luckily, everyone is fine. Today's boars weren't particularly large or dangerous. They didn't encounter any boars with tusks this time, so while some load the pigs and dogs, others pack up the filming equipment. By the time they finish and head home, the sky is already turning pale. Upon arriving, reporter Chun turns to Captain Ba to offer her thanks. She thanks them for their cooperation and announces that filming is officially over, with the program expected to air within 3 days. She promises to notify them when it's ready, and Bing thanks them in return, knowing they've worked just as hard through the night. Bing's father, surprisingly quick for once, offers to buy them dinner tonight, but they politely decline the captain's kind invitation. They need to head back this afternoon. The crew, especially the assistant and cameraman, are exhausted and desperate for some real rest. As soon as the visitors depart, Bing claps his hands in pure delight. He is actually going to be on television. He immediately grabs his phone to call Old Lee, eager to share the good news that his face will soon be on the screen. Old Lee is understandably confused, wondering if Bing has lost his mind calling at such an ungodly hour of the morning. Bing just laughs, asking if he has any idea what they did last night, explaining that reporters followed them for an entire interview. He tells him they caught the boars while being filmed the whole time, but Old Lee remains skeptical, thinking Bing might be hallucinating. He asks if Bing got hurt or if he's just talking nonsense, but Bing simply tells him to believe it or not. It's his choice. He tells him to just watch the TV and hangs up, leaving Old Lee stunned. When Lee tries to call back, the line is already busy. Even the father is feeling a mix of excitement and nerves, though Bing's antics have helped distract him from his own anxiety. As they prepare to head back for some sleep, reporter Chin asks Bing if Laifu was the one who initiated the attack on every single boar. Bing clarifies that for the third one, little Laifu took one look at its size and decided to leave it for the others while he chased this one. Chun asks if the hunt is officially over for the day, and Bing confirms that they are indeed finished. He checks to see if any of the hounds were injured, but fortunately, everyone is fine. Today's boars weren't particularly large, and they didn't encounter any males with tusks. While some load the dogs, others pack the equipment. By the time they finish and head home, the sky is already beginning to brighten. Upon arriving, reporter Chun turns to Captain Ba. She thanks them for their cooperation and announces that filming is over, with the program expected to air within 3 days. She promises to notify them then, and Bing thanks her in return, acknowledging they've all worked hard through the night. Old Ba, surprisingly quick for once, offers to buy them dinner tonight, but they politely decline the captain's kind invitation. They need to head back this afternoon. The crew, especially the assistant and cameraman, are exhausted and desperate for rest. As soon as the visitors depart, Bing claps his hands in pure delight. He is actually going to be on television. He immediately grabs his phone to call Old Lee, eager to share the news that his face will soon be on the screen. Old Lee is understandably confused, wondering if Bing has lost his mind calling at such an ungodly hour of the morning. Bing asks if he has any idea what they did last night, explaining that reporters followed them for an entire interview. He tells him they caught the boars while being filmed the whole time, but Old Lee remains skeptical, thinking Bing might be hallucinating. He asks if Bing got hurt or is just talking nonsense, but Bing simply tells him to believe it or not. It's his choice. Bing abruptly hangs up, leaving Old Lee stunned. When Lee tries to call back, the line is already busy. Even Old Ba is feeling a mix of excitement and nerves, though Bing's antics have helped distract him from his own anxiety. While our heroes finally settle in to sleep, a car pulls up to the dog farm, a place that rarely sees visitors. Wondering why a car would arrive so late, Little Ba goes out to see someone asking for his help. A man in his 50s steps out of the car. Old Ba rushes over, asking what he can do to help. He promises to do whatever he can. This is the village chief from his hometown, who explains that a child from Old Way's family has gone missing. The chief asks if Ba can use his drone to search near the village, since it can detect people even in the dark. Without a second thought, Ba agrees and heads inside to grab the drone. To be honest, he was never one to turn down a neighbor in need. Finding people is something he's quite good at, after all. As soon as he opens the car door, Laifu leaps inside. The dog hops from the driver's side to the passenger seat. Ba shouts for Laifu to get down, wondering why he's coming along if they aren't hunting. But then, Ba realizes something. If Laifu can track down lost dogs, he can surely find a missing person. He decides to bring him along, fitting Laifu with a tracking collar just in case. And so, the search party of 2 men and 1 dog begins. Ba follows the village chief's car, driving at high speed because every second counts in a search like this. They arrive at the village in about half an hour. Ba suggests they head straight to Old Way's house first. When they arrive, they find only an elderly woman whose eyes are red and swollen from crying. It is a heartbreaking sight. The rest of the family and many villagers are already out in the mountains searching. The old woman looks up as they enter. She is deeply moved, thanking little Ba for coming to help in their time of need. Ba reassures her that it's only right for neighbors to help each other, then asks her to bring out a piece of the child's clothing. The woman doesn't even stop to ask why he needs it. She simply rushes off to find something. In a crisis, one doesn't ask questions. Ba hands the clothing to Laifu, telling him to remember the scent. The dog nods, signaling that he's got it. They decide to find a high vantage point where the drone signal will be strongest, and soon the car is speeding out of the village. After reaching the highest peak in the area, the 2 men and the dog climb to the top. Ba launches the drone into the air. Almost immediately, the thermal camera picks up several heat signatures. Villagers scattered across the mountain, searching for the boy. Laifu stands at the summit and takes a deep breath, but the child's scent isn't in the air yet. He begins to study the surrounding terrain. After sensing the wind direction, Laifu heads down the slope alone and makes his way toward the mountain path on the opposite side. Seeing the dog dash off, the village chief calls out in a panic, worried that little Ba's dog is running away. Ba reassures him that the dog is just doing his job. The chief wonders if a regular dog can really find a person like a police dog can. Ba admits he isn't sure, but it's worth a try. Meanwhile, Laifu moves through the terrain, searching for any trace of the child's scent. He begins to circle the village, but the wind is picking up tonight, which, naturally, makes the tracking much harder. Unless he's downwind, he'll have to get very close to catch a scent. After one full loop around the village, he expands his search radius. At this moment, Laifu is like a living radar, his sense of smell covering a range of nearly 2 kilometers around him. He is certain that if the child is still near the village, he will find him. Finally, about 2 kilometers to the northwest, Laifu catches a familiar scent. He lets out 2 sharp barks to alert old Ba, knowing the collar will pick up the sound. The tracking collar has a sound detection feature, so when the dog barks, a notification pops up on the main console. Sure enough, Ba sees the alert on his screen. He tells the chief that Laifu has found something and is signaling them. He quickly maneuvers the drone to follow the dog, while Laifu slows to a light trot to let the machine catch up. The chief asks breathlessly if the boy has been found. Ba can't be sure yet, but they're going to drive over and see for themselves. The strong winds make the drone wobble, and the battery is draining fast. To be honest, the situation is becoming quite tense. Despite the low battery, Ba pushes forward. Finding the child is the only thing that matters. Laifu looks up and sees the drone's lights. Now certain of the location, the dog sprints toward a specific spot, leading the drone deep into a dense forest within the valley. They discover a narrow path through the trees, likely made by local wildlife. Following that trail inward, we find the heart of the woods. From its high vantage point, the drone spots a small glimmer of light. Ba isn't sure if it's an animal or the boy himself. He hurriedly flies the drone lower, switching on the searchlights to get a better look at what lies beneath the canopy. A second later, Ba cries out in pure relief. He's found him, the child is safe, and our search has finally come to an end. As soon as the village chief sees the child lying in the dense forest on the drone screen, he immediately begins calling for help. Fortunately, that part of the woods sits just below some farmland with a small path accessible by car, so the 2 men rush down. They head for the mountain road while the villagers, hearing the news, all race toward the location. We then follow Laifu into the thicket. He finds the boy lying on the ground. His breathing is steady, and it seems he has simply fallen asleep. But as we look closer, we discover a wire snare tightly gripped around the child's leg. It's hard to say who exactly left such a thing out here. This trap, intended for animals, has managed to snag a 10-year-old boy. Because it's a spring-loaded wire snare, it's incredibly difficult to escape. Once it snaps shut, it's nearly impossible to open without help, and the poor child simply didn't have the strength to free himself. His lower leg has turned bruised and blue, with a layer of skin rubbed raw. He likely cried until he was exhausted and finally drifted off. It's a lucky thing there were no wild boars nearby, or he would have been in grave danger. Laifu stands guard, choosing not to wake him. He doesn't want to startle the boy. Soon, old Ba and the chief are the first to arrive by car, locating the dog and the child. The chief lets out a shout that wakes the boy, who immediately bursts into tears. Old Ba moves quickly to release the wire snare. Afterward, he gently pats the dog's head, praising Laifu for being so impressive. He really could be a police dog. For a brief moment, old Ba wonders if having Laifu just hunt wild boars with them is a bit of a waste of such talent. In less than 10 minutes, a large, noisy crowd of villagers arrives. A woman rushes forward and takes the child into her arms. She is crying and scolding the boy all at once for being so reckless. The chief knows, of course, that this is just her way of showing she was worried. He tells her to stop the scolding for now. The boy's leg is bruised, and he needs to get to a hospital to ensure there's no lasting damage. The boy's father offers a hurried thanks to old Ba before rushing his son to the hospital. Meanwhile, the remaining villagers gather around Laifu, buzzing with excitement. They marvel at how a single dog was more effective than dozens of men. A boar-hunting dog that can also find missing people is truly on par with a professional canine. Laifu holds his head high, feeling quite proud. The chief eventually tells everyone to head home and get some sleep, offering one last round of thanks to old Ba as he leaves. After that, old Ba drives everyone home, and they all sleep soundly until nearly noon before waking up to decide where to fool around tonight. Since their fans have been so enthusiastic lately, they decide they absolutely must head out today for a live broadcast. When evening falls, they load the dogs into the pickup and set off. Upon reaching their destination, they first open the live stream room. Old Ba adjusts the drone, connects the camera feed to the stream, and stands to the side to address the viewers, wishing everyone a good evening. He welcomes all the brothers and sisters joining the stream, jokingly admitting they've come out tonight just to see what they can find. The drone soon takes flight, and old Ba falls silent as he searches for a Peppa, their nickname for a wild boar, while Brother Ben occasionally answers the audience's questions. The search for a pig proves to be quite a struggle today. They move locations several times and drain 3 batteries before finally spotting the first one. Old Ba points toward the dense forest, noting that there is a truly massive fellow hiding deep within the thicket. We see them lean in to look, and sure enough, a very large Peppa appears in the valley forest. To be honest, it's a formidable sight. The thermal imaging spot for this pig is exceptionally bright. Old Ba calls out to Brother Bin to wake up, as the merchandise has finally arrived. Brother Bin quickly scrambles up from the back seat, while Brother Dong approaches from the other vehicle. Old Ba gives them the rundown. It's a large, solitary male weighing over 300 pounds. Releasing the dogs in such a dense forest would be incredibly dangerous. Brother Bin is firm in his refusal to release the dogs, insisting that in this terrain, the dogs wouldn't be able to dodge an attack. If they let them go now, the dogs will surely get hurt. He wonders if they can drive the pig out instead, but it seems unlikely. Because the target is so large, it's already clumsy in the thicket, and a dog entering that space would have no room to maneuver. Brother Bin is clearly worried. He fears for Laifu's safety, but the dog is full of confidence, turning to paw at the car door and letting himself out. It's as if he's telling them not to worry and just watch the show. Brother Bin rushes out of the car to try and pull him back. He asks Laifu where he thinks he's going, but the dog simply shakes his fur and begins running toward the pig's location. Seeing this, Brother Bin grows anxious and asks Old Ba if they should release the rest of the dogs now that Laifu is already down there. Old Ba is at a loss for what to do. In this terrain, releasing the pack will lead to injuries, but leaving Laifu alone is just as risky. Laifu doesn't have a single helper down there, but Old Ba chooses to trust him anyway, knowing just how clever the dog truly is. Still, Brother Bin isn't taking any chances. He and Brother Dong grab their spears and head into the dense forest, though progress is slow. The thicket is choked with thorns and shrubs, making it difficult to navigate. Initially, Laifu approaches the Peppa in a straight line. This massive male boar is incredibly confident. Hearing the noise, he doesn't run, but instead lifts his head to see what is approaching. Because the thorns are so dense where the boar is standing, Laifu stops about 20 or 30 meters away from the target. He finds a spot where the brush is thinner and begins barking loudly at the boar. Old Ba quickly relays this to Brother Bin. He tells him that Laifu is being brilliant, stopping a safe distance away to start his vocal challenge. Brother Bin watches it all unfold. Seeing this on the livestream feed puts his mind at ease. Laifu isn't just staying back, he's already scouted his escape route. At this distance, there is no immediate threat, but the large boar simply ignores him. So, Laifu stands his ground and continues. He barks rhythmically, one shout after another. Old Ba instantly realizes the strategy. Laifu is essentially taunting the boar. It's like a scene from a historical drama, where two armies trade insults to provoke an attack. Laifu is persistent, barking for 20 minutes. The audience watches the stream in disbelief as the dog maintains his verbal assault. One wonders if his throat is getting dry. To be honest, if someone barked at me for 20 minutes, I'd lose my temper too. Sure enough, the boar snaps and charges through the thorns. As the beast draws closer, we get a clear look at his frame. He is, without a doubt, the largest Peppa we have ever seen. He easily clears 400 pounds, let alone 300. Taking him down won't be easy. They'll have to wear him out first. Laifu turns and runs, leading the massive boar along his pre-planned path toward the edge of the dense forest. After a chase of about 50 meters, the boar thinks he has driven the intruder away and comes to a halt. Laifu pauses as well. But then, after scouting his next escape route, the dog turns right back around. He stops about 10 meters from the boar and starts again. Meanwhile, Brother Bin stands under a large tree with his spear ready, waiting to back Laifu up if things go south. As a cautious veteran hunter, he knows the danger of a large boar and is prepared to climb that tree at a moment's notice. Laifu continues his vocal assault for another 10 minutes, refusing to let the beast rest. Naturally, the massive boar loses its temper once again. The beast charges, and Laifu turns to run, but this time the boar is truly enraged. It refuses to let go, chasing him relentlessly. He leads the boar right out of the dense forest. Once in the open, the creature feels a flicker of unease and comes to a halt. But Laifu isn't finished. He turns back, specifically leading Peppa toward the flat paths used by the local villagers. It's much easier terrain. He wants to ensure the boar doesn't give up the chase due to difficult obstacles. Seeing them emerge, Old Ba smiles, noting that the real show is beginning. After a chase of nearly 300 meters, the massive boar is visibly winded. It begins to slow down and eventually stops to catch its breath. Now that they are out of the thicket, the boar no longer dictates the terms of this engagement. Laifu begins circling the beast with practiced ease. The boar is forced to spin in place to avoid exposing its flank. After only 2 rotations, the creature's frustration boils over once more. It lunges at Laifu again, and the dog leads it toward the soft, plowed fields. Deep down, he knows the loose soil will drain the boar's energy faster. Seeing them move further away, Old Ba calls out to Brother Bin, suggesting they relocate and use the car to keep up with Laifu. Gradually, the boar's charges become shorter and less frequent. While its massive frame provides immense power, it seems its stamina is lacking. The beast is now gasping for air with its mouth wide open. For Laifu, however, this feels like he's only just finished his warm-up. Realizing it can't catch the nimble dog, the boar turns to retreat. But Laifu has no intention of letting his prize walk away so easily. He closes the distance from behind, forcing the boar into another tense standoff. Laifu circles again, threatening the beast's vulnerable rear. The boar spins twice more before backing its rear against a terrace wall. It realizes that simply standing still isn't going to work. The massive creature suddenly lunges sideways with incredible force. Fortunately, Laifu is already prepared to pivot out of harm's way. Old Ba watches nervously, shouting for Laifu to be careful, but it was only a feint. The dog brushes past the boar with inches to spare. Thinking it has a chance to strike, the boar leaves the safety of the wall to give chase. It gives up after 10 meters, unable to close the gap. After several failed attempts, the boar finally realizes it is helpless against this opponent. It turns and begins a desperate flight to escape. But every movement now only serves to deplete its remaining strength. Laifu follows at a steady pace, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As Peppa slows down, Laifu moves in to provoke it once more, circling directly in front of the massive beast as the other dogs begin to arrive. The boar tries to struggle one last time, but fails to stand. Seeing its weakness, Laifu lunges and bites down firmly on its snout, safely away from the tusks. He uses his 100-pound frame to pin the beast down, preventing any escape. Once he has secured his grip, the young and reckless Lengtaoking joins the fray. Lengtaoking is the first to follow, latching onto one ear, while Yaodawang, the king of head shaking, grabs the other, living up to his name entirely. Yaodawang begins violently shaking the boar's ear, and only then do the other dozen dogs swarm in, piling onto the massive creature all at once. Covered in dogs, the great boar can do nothing but howl in defeat. Brother Ben arrives shortly after and, without wasting a single moment, prepares his blade. As he begins the work, Old Ba marvels at the size of the beast. It's longer than a man and easily weighs over 400 pounds. Brother Ben pulls out his phone to record a video, eager to show the world how Laifu took down a 400-pound cannon without a single scratch. Many farm protection teams have hunted boars before, as have Old Ba and Ben, but taking one down without injury is considered nearly impossible. The boar's struggle finally ends, and Laifu releases his grip, his tongue lolling out as he pants heavily from the sheer exertion of the hunt. After tangling with the beast for hours, the dog has covered far more ground than his prey, likely over 10 miles of relentless running. Seeing his exhaustion, Brother Ben quickly brings out some milk to reward him, praising the dog for never being touched by the boar's tusks. After the milk is finished, Brother Dong arrives to see the prize. Ben hands him the phone to capture the moment of victory. Ben sits atop the massive boar for a photo, pulling on its ears for effect, before they begin to wonder how they will ever drag this giant back. Old Ba notes that dragging a 400-pound beast with only 3 men will be a struggle. Well, everyone, he says, that's it for today's stream. He tells the viewers that catching such a massive boar makes the whole night worth it, and with that, he finally cuts the live broadcast. Once the cameras are off, Old Ba rushes over to take his own photos. Afterward, the 3 men begin the grueling task of moving the carcass to the car. It takes every ounce of their strength to load the boar and the dogs into the vehicle. Finally, they head home, where Ben's first task is feeding the pack. While the dogs eat, Old Ba and Dong open the back of the car, using pliers and hammers to extract the boar's impressive tusks. The tusks are incredible, nearly 6 inches long and sharp as daggers. Despite the late hour, the 3 men find they are far too excited to sleep. While everyone admires the massive Peppa, Ben doesn't miss the chance to hop onto the boar's back, posing with his chest puffed out for a photo. These are the trophies he'll share with his fans later. After all, once they finally finish the photo shoot, they expend a great deal of effort, lifting the beast onto the truck. While Dong goes along to handle the delivery, Ben sits outside the house, busy sharing photos and bragging to everyone. We see the comments rolling in, claiming the hunt had nothing to do with the men, it was all Laifu. They say anyone with hands could have done it. The group chat is filled with envious remarks, with people claiming that if they had a dog like Laifu, they could take down a 400-pounder too. The jealousy is thick, but Ben simply laughs it off, basking in the glory of the hunt. It weighed 436 pounds, to be exact. Ben turns to Laifu, playfully grabbing his ears and praising him for being so incredible. He presses his face close to the dogs in excitement. Eventually, exhaustion wins, and they all drift off to sleep. Laifu, worn out from the run, sleeps soundly. By the time they wake, it's already mid-afternoon. There will be no hunt tonight, as Ben decides the hard-working dog needs some well-deserved rest. However, upon waking, Laifu feels a twinge of discomfort. There is a sharp pain in his front left paw whenever it touches the ground. The paw pad isn't torn, but it seems a thorn has found its way in. And so, we see him hopping on 3 legs toward the fence to find Ben. Ben is busy hosing down the enclosure and doesn't notice the approach at first, not until Laifu lets out a couple of barks to get his attention. Ben turns around and sees the dog limping. "Oh, Laifu, what happened to your leg?" he asks, immediately dropping the hose to rush over. He lifts the paw to inspect it and finds the culprit. Ben quickly grabs some tweezers to pull the thorn out before applying disinfectant to the small wound. A thorn is a minor thing, really. Even Ben gets poked constantly while trekking through the dense forest. His face is rarely without a scratch. He once even took a tumble that left him sore for 2 months. But he realizes that if a 10-mile run leads to a punctured paw, something must change. The dog needs shoes. Sensing the thought, Laifu trots over and slides his front legs into a pair of Ben's own shoes, making his point quite clear. Ben understands instantly. "You want shoes? Can you even get used to them?" he asks. Laifu nods, as if to say he'll adapt just fine with time. Bin is impressed by the dog's intelligence. He calls out to Old Ba, marveling at the fact that Lai Fu actually knows he needs footwear for the hunt. Old Ba checks the time and pats the dog's head. "Let's go," he says. They head out to get custom shoes made, and by the time they finish, evening has arrived. Old Ba picks up some dinner on the way back, and Bin is absolutely beaming as he shares the news. Their program is airing tomorrow. Old Ba is surprised it's happening so fast. After dinner, Bin starts tinkering with his phone, wondering how many rural hunting teams actually make it onto TV. It's not just any show, it's the news. He immediately begins announcing the big update across the hunting groups, the VIP chats, and his fan pages. He tells everyone not to miss it, noting it's the first time he and Old Ba will be on screen, and their dogs performed brilliantly that day. He boasts about how well they did, especially Lai Fu. Out of the 4 boars caught, Lai Fu was the first to strike on 3 of them. He even chased the last one for over a mile. As soon as Bin posts this, the fan group explodes, and a young woman named Chen starts spamming the chat. She asks if it's really true, thrilled at the idea that all their puppers are going to be famous television stars now. She expresses how much she loves Lai Fu and the team. Even more absurdly, the very next day, this Miss Chun drives out to a local supermarket to ask around. She manages to track down the address of the dog farm in no time. Around 10 o'clock the next morning, while the 3 men are still asleep, a car suddenly pulls up to the gate. As the engine cuts out, the wolf hybrids and several puppies gather around with curious stares. The visitor, Lu Yinyan, hesitates to get out at first. She rolls down the window and calls out for Bin and Old Ba. Having woken up early, the narrator is the first to open the door. Seeing someone emerge, Yinyan waves excitedly, calling out for Lai Fu with pure joy. It's a bit of a shock to see a beautiful woman show up unannounced. Old Ba hears the commotion and steps outside, and Yinyan recognizes him instantly. She waves and explains she's a fan who came to visit. Old Ba can only twitch his lips in surprise. He didn't expect fans to start showing up at the door. She apologizes for the intrusion, explaining that she sent private messages that went unanswered, so she decided to find them herself. Old Ba tells her it's no trouble and invites her to step out of the car, assuring her that the dogs won't bite. She nervously agrees. Old Ba isn't quite sure what to say to a beautiful fan, but luckily, Bin steps out just then. Yin greets him with a bright, happy smile. She mentions she's from the same area and recognized the supermarket from yesterday's video, which is how she found her way here. She knows exactly what kind of men Old Ba and Bin are from their videos. Bin, ever the boisterous host, tells her she's more than welcome. She asks if Lai Fu is friendly, and Bin tells her not to worry, his dogs are well behaved, even if they look a bit intimidating. Bin assures her that the dogs don't bite, not a single one of them, and just as the words leave his mouth, Lu Yinyan lunges straight toward Lai Fu. "Lai Fu, I'm here," she cries out, immediately cupping the dog's chin with one hand while stroking his head with the other. Lai Fu is surprisingly cooperative, allowing the affection to continue as Yinyan leans in close to get a better look at him. She truly adores him. She tells the dog that if she had known he lived so close, she would have come to visit much sooner, and she didn't come empty-handed. Yin runs back to her car and hauls out a large box filled to the brim with various treats she bought from a pet store. She turns to Bin and asks if it's all right for Lai Fu to eat these things. Bin, not wanting to dampen her spirits, gives her the green light. "It's fine, go ahead and feed him," he says, noting that if the dog doesn't like something, he simply won't eat it. To be honest, it's a fair point. Yin tells Bin and Old Ba to go about their business, insisting she's perfectly happy just playing with Lai Fu on her own. After spending some time playing together, Yin finally prepares to leave, promising she'll be back to visit again very soon. Once she departs, the 3 men head inside and pull out their phones just as the news program they recorded earlier begins to air. A female anchor appears on screen to introduce the next segment, discussing how the restoration of the local ecosystem has led to a rise in wildlife. She explains that while biodiversity is a blessing, it also brings certain challenges, leading into a report from their field correspondent. We see the news footage, and although the segment is brief, lasting less than a minute in total, it's a significant moment for the team. Old Ba and Bin only appear on screen for about 10 seconds, but that is more than enough to leave them both feeling incredibly satisfied. Lai Fu makes an appearance as well, though he's mostly just a thermal image of a dog running through the brush. However, there is more to see. The full, detailed video on the news station's social media account is over 10 minutes long, so they quickly switch over to watch that version. This version is far more comprehensive, featuring the pre-hunt interviews, the actual capture process, and even a close-up introduction of Lai Fu. After watching, Bin immediately shares the link to all his groups, urging everyone to like the video and leave a comment. He starts sending out voice messages everywhere, boasting about how Lai Fu is a star now, having been the primary striker on 3 of the 4 boars. Lai Fu watches along as they scroll through the fan comments, noting that at least half of the discussion is centered entirely on him. Seeing this, Old Ba raises his glass for a toast, and as his spirits soar, his tolerance for alcohol seems to grow right along with them. Before long, the 3 men and the dog are all quite tipsy. Lai Fu finds he can no longer sit still on his chair and tries to hop down. As he tries to walk, his front legs nearly slide into a split, and he wobbles so much that the 3 men burst into fits of laughter. After a night of playing and joking around, the three of them finally pass out, only to wake up the next morning and exchange sheepish looks. Old Ba and Brother Bin both feel a bit awkward, suggesting to Brother Dong that he shouldn't buy any more alcohol for a while. Drinking really does get in the way of business. Just then, the tailor shop calls to say the shoes are ready, and Old Ba rushes to get them. Once he returns, he calls Lai Fu over to try them on, carefully fitting the new shoes onto the dog's paws one by one. With the shoes securely fastened, Old Ba tells him to take a few laps, and Lai Fu responds with a literal rocket start. He kicks up a cloud of dust on the dirt road in front of the house, racing through the yellow sand before circling back to the group. Old Ba checks to see if the shoes have loosened at all and asks Lai Fu if they feel alright. To be honest, they look quite sturdy. Lai Fu nods his head. With these shoes, he no longer has to worry about thorns or wearing down his paw pads. Yesterday was for celebrating. But today, we return to reality, where life and work must continue. A villager calls to report a group of wild boars near their village. It seems the boars come during the day to ruin the crops, and even though they are chased away, they simply wait for the sun to go down. They return at night to continue the destruction, and when the villagers tried to use their own guard dogs to drive them off, things went poorly. The dogs were actually bitten and injured by the boars. This group is incredibly arrogant and has been clashing with the villagers for days. It wasn't until the village official reported the situation that they got Old Ba's number. Meanwhile, Brother Bin's excitement hasn't faded one bit. He scoffs at their arrogance, wondering if they can match his own energy as he prepares to take on the boars single-handedly. Old Ba just chuckles and tells him he'd better sharpen his long and short knives then. Brother Bin then turns to check on our four-legged friend. He asks Lai Fu if his paws still hurt and if he's up for a trip into the mountains. Lai Fu simply nods his head in response. A minor injury like that is nothing. By evening, the pain is gone, and Old Ba puts on his armor as the most hard-working dogs prepare to head out. Fortunately, the journey today isn't long, taking only about an hour. Upon arrival, Old Ba first consults with the local villagers. He learns the exact location of the boars, who have been specifically targeting the village's best fields. To help out, a villager brings a vehicle to lead the way. Old Ba follows down a narrow farm track, and as soon as the drone takes flight, we see the culprits. The boars are there, feasting greedily. Seeing the size of this sounder, Brother Bin and Old Ba can't help but chuckle. None of them look very big. In fact, not a single one exceeds 200 pounds, and since they're on flat ground, this should be an easy catch. However, their numbers are quite significant. A rough count reveals over 30 boars of various sizes. As Old Ba opens the live stream, viewers flood in instantly. He greets everyone, jokingly saying they've come out to fool around tonight, and asks if they saw the news video from yesterday. He encourages them to like and comment to boost their popularity and share the stream. After chatting with the audience for a bit, Old Ba tells Brother Bin to get ready to release the dogs. Lai Fu nudges Brother Bin with a paw, reminding him about the shoes. He hadn't put them on for the car ride, fearing his paws might get too sweaty if he wore them too early. Meanwhile, Brother Dong is eager. He notes that the terrain is excellent today and asks Brother Bin if he can join him as a partner to help out. Brother Bin agrees, though he playfully doubts if Dong can actually handle the task, wondering if he's ever even killed a chicken. Dong insists these pests are destroying crops and promises he'll be quick and decisive. He's quite determined to prove himself. Usually, when the terrain is rough, Dong stays back to avoid being a burden, but deep down, he's been wanting to join the hunt for a long time. Once his shoes are on, Lai Fu hops out of the car. This time, however, he doesn't rush ahead. The pigs are small and the ground is easy. There's really no challenge here. Old Ba gives Brother Dong the signal, and he immediately flings open the back of the truck. The dogs scramble out, competing to be first. Brother Bin leads them forward a few steps until the lead dogs catch the scent. The lead pack breaks into a full sprint while the men try their best to keep up. Interestingly, the boars don't flee immediately. Seeing the dogs approaching, they huddle together with the large boars in front and the piglets behind. It's a massive group, counting the big, medium, and small ones. There are over 30 in total. Luckily, there are no large, aggressive tuskers among them. Usually, large boars only join the sounder during the breeding season, which is when they are most dangerous as they protect the group. Hunting during those times often means facing a fierce male, but since it isn't breeding season yet, the boars are absent, leaving only sows. The piglets are clearly visible, and Lai Fu seems to be feeling a bit lazy today, knowing the other dogs need to gain some experience. If he does all the work, the rest of the team won't improve. So today he is simply here to manage the situation and keep watch. He will only step in if things get dangerous. The lead dogs arrive and surround the group with a chorus of barks, followed quickly by the rest. However, the boars huddle so tightly together that there's no opening to strike. The clever lead dog, My Sui, begins barking while circling. As My Sui draws closer, the boars sense the danger, and suddenly, one of them decides to take the initiative and charges out. My Sui turns to run, but his paws get tangled in the potato vines. In an instant, the boar slams right into him. The impact knocks My Sui over completely. Seeing an opening to help, Da Huang rushes in immediately to lock his jaws onto the target. Tiniu prepares to join the fray as well, but just as Da Huang bites down, another boar charges out from the huddle to intervene. The sudden rescue attempt startles Da Huang into letting go, and the pig quickly retreats back into the safety of the group. With over a dozen dogs unable to attack at once, Mian Mian tries the same tactic as Mai Sui, constantly closing in to threaten them. She tries to lure a boar out just as Mai Sui did, but with one key difference. Mian Mian successfully dodges the countercharge. She even manages to turn back and land a bite, while Huangbiao, Da Shui, and Bai Shua all swarm in to support her. They pin the boar down with little effort, but then, at least 3 or 4 other boars rush out together to save their companion. The force of the rescue actually knocks the dogs aside. Seeing this, Old Ba shouts that there are simply too many pigs for the dogs to handle. The scene is becoming quite chaotic, and he tells Brother Bin to go in and provide some much-needed backup. The melee between a dozen dogs and over 30 boars keeps the audience spellbound. The boars are remarkably united in their defense. They help each other so effectively that their formation seems unbreakable. Viewers begin to wonder why Lai Fu hasn't made a move yet. As the star of the show, Old Ba soon spots him. We see that Lai Fu is already positioned right at the edge of the sounder. He is standing about 10 meters away, watching the spectacle from a distance. Perhaps his paw is still tender from that thorn he stepped on last time. Just then, Zhong Tuo and Xiao Dongbei manage to drag a single boar out from the huddle, with Xiao Dongbei clamping firmly onto its snout. He pulls back with all his might as the younger, bolder dogs like Gondaiich, the two Zongtuos, and Jifeng join the fray. Da Mao is there too, and when the boars see this group of dogs wearing protective armor, they realize these aren't easy targets and hesitate to charge. They simply watch as Xiao Dongbei slowly drags their companion away, and soon Gondaiich manages to sink his teeth into the boar's ear. Together, they pull the boar about 2 or 3 meters from the group, until finally, the rest of the pack swarms in to secure the catch. The other boars still want to save their friend, however, and 3 or 4 of them begin to follow. We see the tension rising. Fearing that Zhong Tuo might be overwhelmed if they charge, Lai Fu approaches from the side, letting out a low, threatening grunt at the boars. Seeing such a massive dog standing in their way, the boars begin to waver, while the other dogs notice the opening and start to converge. It seems this particular pig won't be rescued today. After scaring off the boar's siblings, we see that Brother Bin has finally arrived on the scene. Brother Bin and Brother Dong reach the battlefield together. As Bin sweeps his flashlight across the area, he notices the pigs aren't actually that large. He realizes this is the perfect moment to show off his skills. Without wasting a second, Bin quickly pulls the protective sheath off his long spear. He finds his footing and grips the spear tightly with both hands, while Brother Dong warns him to be careful from behind. Dong is surprised to see that instead of finishing off the captured pig, Bin is walking straight toward the main sounder of boars. "What are you doing, Bin?" he asks. It seems Bin wants to perform a solo challenge against the boars today. Over years of what some might call a haphazard hunting career, Bin has actually accumulated a wealth of experience and quite a bit of courage. He has often stepped in to finish a hunt before the dogs had full control, but he isn't being reckless. It's a calculated decision. In a situation like this, he feels he'd be doing a disservice if he didn't take down a few more. "Be careful, Bin," Dong calls out again. He suggests Bin should just stick to the usual routine, but Bin is already scanning the group of boars to assess the situation. He takes a moment to look around, his eyes fixed on the movement of the sounder as he prepares for his next move. He grips his long spear tightly and moves toward the sounder, while Old Ba quickly realizes what Brother Bin is planning. What exactly has Bin doing? It seems he wants to challenge the boars alone, while they are too busy staring us down to notice him. They haven't realized that Bin is already less than 2 meters away. A second later, he thrusts his spear toward a boar's chest. The sharp blade slides perfectly between the ribs and sinks deep into the boar's body. The boar lets out a sharp cry and bolts, but Bin doesn't even watch it go. He simply retracts his spear and turns to his second target. With another swift strike through the torso, this second boar doesn't even get a chance to run before falling hard. It lies on the ground, legs kicking wildly, as the blade clearly hit a vital spot. Old Boss shouts with pure excitement, cheering that Brother Bin is incredible for taking them on solo. Even we are watching with wide, surprised eyes. To be honest, it takes a certain kind of courage to strike before the dogs have even secured the prey. Humans can be truly terrifying. Seeing their companions fall one after another, the other boars lose their nerve. Some don't dare stay a moment longer and flee, but others are still hesitating. One boar tries to make a break for it, passing right by Brother Bin's side. Suddenly, Bin thrusts again, catching it right in the belly. The boar screams, running a few meters before collapsing. Having landed several hits in a row, Bin's adrenaline is surging, and he is visibly trembling with excitement. This is undoubtedly the most brilliant battle of his hunting career so far. Suddenly, yet another boar tries to rush past. Bin strikes out, but this particular boar is incredibly agile, managing to dodge the blade with a sudden, desperate leap. The moment it lands, however, Bin thrusts a second time with a sickening thud, sending the boar straight to the ground. That makes 4. Even the viewers in the live stream are going wild, flooding the screen with praise for Bin's skill. But he isn't finished yet. As another boar tries to escape past us, we see a dog chase it down and grab a hind leg. Bin rushes over immediately to deliver the final blow, and just like that, another boar is taken down. Bin turns around, beaming with triumph, as Brother Dong stands nearby, shouting at the top of his lungs that Bin is a legend. Brother Bin is looking quite smug, acting as if taking down 4 boars in a row with his spear was just a minor feat. To be honest, he has every right to be proud. He's been incredible. Meanwhile, Zheng Tuo has another boar pinned down for Brother Dong. Dong decides to try his hand at draining the oil, and Bin begins to coach him, showing him how to aim the blade diagonally. He explains that if you aim true and pierce both the heart and lungs, even the largest boar will be finished in a single strike. Surprisingly, Dong shows no fear at all. He thrusts the blade in and even gives it a couple of shakes to make sure the job is done. Bin gives an approving thumbs up, good man. Immediately after, the two of them pat Zheng Tuo to signal the dog to release the prey. There are still many boars fleeing ahead, and since the lead dogs are already in pursuit, we know there will be more catches soon. Once Zheng Tuo is released, he charges back into the fray. From the drone's perspective, we see only the 2 men and the fallen boars. Good heavens, Bin is truly in his element today. This is a legendary performance we are witnessing. Imagine taking on 4 boars single-handedly in just 1 minute. The dogs have scattered after the herd, some still chasing and others closing in. Some have already cornered their targets or even managed to latch on, but Bin doesn't rush after them immediately. Instead, he pauses for a moment to admire the battlefield. We have to admit, Bin's precision is quite remarkable. The boars he struck barely made it 10 meters. The battlefield is incredibly concentrated. Old Ba shouts over to Jiangji, telling him that Bin has more pinned down ahead and to keep draining the oil. Bin charges forward again, radiating intensity. At this point, the narrator isn't idle either, having personally cornered another boar as the battle spreads across the field. It has turned into a total chaotic brawl, while I hold one, Da Shuai and Damao pin another, and Zheng Tuo works with tied in on a third. Further ahead, Bai Shue has chased another target quite a distance away. By the end of this chaotic night, 13 boars have been taken. Regardless of their size, the numbers speak for themselves. 13 boars in total, a staggering haul by any standard. This sets a new record for the duo's most successful night ever, with Bin taking 4 solo and the narrator handling 3. The villagers help drag all 13 boars together, lining them up along the path as dozens of people gather to see the spectacle. The scene is quite a spectacle, with so many boars that they simply can't haul them all back. Fortunately, a kind-hearted villager brings out a tractor to help transport the haul. After appearing on TV the day before, this second day has become a true highlight of their lives. Brother Bin is absolutely thrilled, showing off to everyone he meets. And so, we find Bin in a wonderful mood, lying on his bed humming a tune out of key, while the narrator plays with the dogs in the enclosure. Now that they're well acquainted, the playful ones have become quite a handful. Sometimes, as he walks ahead, Xiao Chue will run up behind him and playfully nip at his leg, while Mian Mian opens her big mouth to gnaw on his head. Whenever he's happy, he'll jump out to bring them some tasty treats. Just then, Captain Wang, who visited last time, calls old Ba to say he has a friend who is also an internet creator. He wants to film a hunting video, but since the captain has to head out for a trip, he asks if they can help. Since Laifu is there and catching prey is easy, he wonders if they can host a filming session, offering to pay a fee. Old Ba and Brother Bin share a look. A friend of yours is a friend of ours. Why mention money? They tell him to send the friend over and guarantee a catch. The captain insists the fee must be paid, and they finally agree. They tell him to come over. Hearing he's an influencer, Bin searches for him online, and good heavens, he's a fishing streamer with nearly 10 million followers. This is a massive star. That very evening, the big influencer arrives, and Bin and old Ba go out to greet him. Brother Xiaoqiang is here, welcome. Bin and Ba exclaim, I've been watching your videos all the way here. Xiaoqiang replies, it's so exciting, I've actually become a fan. Let's go inside and talk. At that moment, the narrator is sitting by the door. As Xiaoqiang enters, he spots him, kneels down, and says, this must be Laifu. I heard you're incredible. I specifically brought a gift for you. I'll give it to you in a bit. The narrator simply nods.